us, we are the future. Ride for the culture, put my dirty clothes on the lines of a notebook. Never hide from exposure, show you nobody is unbroken.
Remember my name. You see my face every breath that you take. Just when you think I was torn down in flames, I'm born again. All of my dark days are gone. You will remember. Yeah, you will remember.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a relatively sunny Silverstone, if you can believe that, for round number 4 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. My name is Connery Maddock. I'll be your host for this evening. I'm joined for the All-Stars event by Matt Trivett, Sailorkist himself. We're here at the home of British Motorsport. Matt, it's going to be a fantastic event.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I think Silverstone, it's a fantastic circuit, but it's interesting to be here in the middle of the championship because it gets us to a track that there's no excuses. Everybody knows it's nice and wide, lots of drafting, great overtaking opportunities, and hopefully some really great racing as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not quite at the very halfway stage of the season here. Of course, round number 4, we've got 10 rounds here of this championship, both of the All-Stars event and, of course, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup with the professional sim drivers that'll be coming up after we get a couple of races done with the All-Stars. But, yeah, fantastic stuff indeed. And, of course, for the All-Stars, we actually have a change of car for the next couple of rounds. We throw away the 911 GT3 Cup car and we welcome the 718 Cayman GT4 here. So a new car for these drivers to have to deal with. There's the schedule on screen. We'll be dealing with this for 3 rounds. So Silverstone, Road Atlanta, and Montreal will be all with the Cayman.
Absolutely, and it's important to designate as well, it's the GT4 CS, which stands for Club Sport. That means it's the racing GT4 version of the car, the FIA GT4 version of the car, because, of course, they have the road-going GT4 as well, which actually is a phenomenal driver's car. And I once was asked, if I could own any Porsche, what would I own? The GT3 RS is probably the first choice, but I actually would not even go down to the GT3. I'd go to the Cayman after that. The GT4 is just such a fun little car. Not a lot of power, still plenty to get you going, but really snappy, really fun mid-engine, still get it in the manual, and the race car, I've heard, is every bit as fun to drive. Certainly a lot more momentum required with these cars. Silverstone, with its sort of high-speed nature, is, I think, a really good place to have these, and you'll be kind of chasing that rear end and the throttle in a few spots, but I've seen some onboard so far of the practice sessions. I think it's going to be pretty good. I think that there's a few people already looking pretty comfortable, and the times are continuing to fall during practice, Connery.
Yeah, I like how you're picky about which Porsche you want. I'd be happy with any Porsche.
Well, okay,
let's be honest. But there's the format up on screen for you now. These guys have 10 minutes of qualifying to do 3 flying laps that count. If you do more than that, then they won't count after that point. We'll have a sprint race of 17 minutes and a feature event of 22 minutes here in the All-Star Series. And, well, with the format recapped, we'll have a look at the points order as well. It is so tight. For those first couple of spots there. Dan Suzuki leads the way on 112 points at the moment, but Emily Jones is only 2 points behind him, and Matt Campbell 6 points behind your leader, but of course he won't be taking part here today, that's Porsche Works driver. So things are still very close at the very top of the championship, and it's basically a duel between Dan and Emery.
Absolutely. You're right. Richard Leitz and Matt Campbell will not be taking part this time. We've had a different guest Porsche driver come in each time. It's interesting that Matt, even with only doing 2 rounds, is still just that far back, but it's Larry Tenvore that's going to join us this time. So he's looking pretty good on the timing sheets as well. We'll see if that holds in the race. It is shaping up to be a good little championship, though. I think Emery has had the outright pace, Emily Jones, but I think Dan Suzuki has been so consistent and so smart in a lot of these races. Remember, we do a qualifying for race 1, and then we do a full reverse grid, and I think that really defines sort of the consistency, because we've seen people get caught up in the wars trying to come back through the orders. So if you can do that and be efficient, shall we say, or smart, you're probably better off in the total point standings.
Yeah, and the thing about Dan, of course, leading the championship at the moment, I've always been incredibly impressed by his racecraft. He always is respectful, always gives the room, and always gets those consistent finishes as a result, as he's able to keep it on the grey stuff. But let's have a look at the Silverstone circuit then, as we look from up above, of course, straddling the border between Northamptonshire and, of course, Buckinghamshire. So
sorry,
kind of in two separate...
You mean Northamptonshire, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's your North American talking, but there we go. There's the circuit from up above. Of course, we're using the most recent layout here of Silverstone. You can still race on the old layout on iRacing, remember, so you don't have that infield loop, but we're using the infield loop for this one. And, of course, like you said just a couple of moments ago, Matt, lots of slipstream opportunities here to be able to gift yourself an opportunity into places like Stowe, for example.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the Hangar Straight, which famously existed prior to the change. The change brought about another really long straightaway. Formerly, you were kind of going through Abbey and then straight into Brooklyn's nice twisty section. Now you've got the nice Wellington straightaway, named after, of course, the was it the Wellington Bombers, I think it was, that used to fly out of here in the war. So another great long straight into a big breaking point, good overtaking opportunity. Flattest track we've had so far this year, but also I would suspect the widest overall. So yeah, should be lots of great overtaking opportunities.
Yep, lots of space to try and negotiate these sorts of passes. But we'll just have to see once we get to the racing action here today. Of course, in these Caymans, they don't have as potent of a slipstream as the 911 GT3 Cup cars. They don't punch as much of a hole in the air as those higher-powered machines. But there's Minty Boy himself, Jimmy Broadbent, out there getting some laps done here in qualifying. And, of course, he's had some very fortunate news recently of getting himself a real-life drive. So he'll become a real-life racing driver at some point during 2021, which surely is a dream come true. And it's you know, a dream a lot of sim racers have.
Yeah, not envious at all of that. That's very, very cool, especially you know, doing it in such a neat way. And obviously he had plans to do that this year, but COVID kind of sidelined those. Just to note really quickly as well, driving down where he is now in the Hangar Straight, just off to our left, prior to that grandstand, there's actually, you saw it on the track map, a smaller little circuit. That's actually the Porsche Driving Academy. So if you're ever in the UK and you want to head up to Northamptonshire, I'm just kidding, I'll call it Hamptonshire. You can actually go there and they'll put you in some of their machinery, get you on track with an instructor, and you can hoon some Porsches around the circuit for the day. Got stuff like a skid pad and all that. I've done actually the one in Atlanta, Georgia, and it's good fun. The kick plate and the low circuit drift circle are super fun to just throw the car around on. So worth doing if you ever get to somewhere that has a Porsche driving experience near you. But Jimmy's having his own experience right now, and yeah, this is, I think, such a fun car around here. I think we're going to see a little bit of sideways action. We'll see who can really hang on to the Porsche. It's such a different driving experience in real life as well as in iRacing between this and the Cup car. And, you know, I did the Nürburgring 24 last year on iRacing using this exact Cayman, and originally I really wanted to push it. I really wanted to attack, and I really wanted to overdrive the car, and it was a big problem. It doesn't like a lot of inputs, but once you get the flow of this car, it's super fun to drive, and you can just let it hold speed, be delicate with it, and it actually became one of my favorite cars in iRacing once I got used to it.
It's also less tricky to drive, I would say, than the 911 GT3 Cup car. You've got more assists. You've got you can lean on the ABS. You have traction control, so your speed out the corners shouldn't be too bad. You're not going to get the back end out as much as you would in the GT3 Cup car. That is for certain. But there's Emily Jones out there. Emery. She set one of the fastest times in practice, but there's Gamer Muscle out there with the particularly distinctive livery, I'd say, on that Cayman.
Yeah, that is a flex from Gamer Muscle. That is quite the livery. Super cool looking as I don't know, I'm loving some of the creativity we're seeing. I don't know what my favorite livery's been all year, but that's up there. That's pretty cool. It's certainly colorful while still looking pretty sleek at the same time. Just quickly with your point, yeah, you're going to see less throttle oversteer with these cars, but it's actually the entry oversteer that you'll get a bit more with the mid-engine. They call it snap oversteer. There's famous stories about cars like MR2s and lots of other mid-engine cars being scary to drive because of that. It's not. If you're delicate with your inputs, it's very predictable. It's when you try and throw it around that it can catch you. So that's what you might see, a bit of oversteer on entry, but yeah, it's going to be a lot more easy to drive off the corners.
Yeah, it means the attrition rate might be a little bit better, but as we're riding on board with Gamer Muscle, you can see his livery is basically made up of just tiny repetitions of his own logo in different colors, which has made that really cool effect on the on his car. There's Depp Yellow out there getting his laps done as well. So we're starting to see the first couple of times come in. It's a very long lap here, especially in the Caymans. We're in the sort of 2 minute 12, 2 minute 13s up there. So the race lengths in terms of laps are going to be pretty short here today, but of course it's the same amount of time. There's your championship leader though, Dan Suzuki on his qualifying laps. He currently sits in P3 at the moment, but one person I do want to talk about here, Matt, is Larry Tenvoorde. He is a Porsche Works driver. He is actually the reigning champion of the Porsche Mobile One Super Cup in the real world side of things. So a lot of experience coming into this, and he's already been setting some very, very competitive lap times indeed, at least in practice.
Yeah, absolutely, and very cool to see, you know, a Porsche Cup driver. Certainly, a Porsche Works. We've had Matty Campbell, we've had Richard Least. Both of them are familiar with Cup cars, no doubt, but they're on to the bigger and faster machinery with Porsche. Larry coming in, obviously, is although we're in the Cayman today, is familiar with the Cup car, which is what Pesca is all about. And as you say, winning the most competitive Super Cup series that they have in the Mobile One series. So very cool to have him with us, and very cool that he's already this quick. In fact, in practice, I was sure he was going to be the one to beat, but Emily Jones never fails to deliver half a second on everybody else, and it's pretty close after that. It's a half second between second and seventh, so she's that far clear of everyone right now.
Yeah, she is.
Is this the longest lap? This would be the longest lap we've had this year.
Yes, so far this year, but of course we have the Nordschleife coming up a little bit later on in the season.
Fair enough. That kind of does win, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. So, you know, that's going to be the big daddy in terms of lap times in this one. And we'll actually have, for the Nordschleife, just a slightly different format because of the way that track works with its very, very long lap times. But we're still here at Silverstone. It's a long way until we get to the Nürburgring in terms of the rounds.
If Jimmy's Minty Boy, is this Boosty Boy?
Boosty Boy.
Boosty Boy? It's kind of like the Beastie Boys, Boosted Media, the Boosty Boy. I'm gonna go with it, and if he doesn't like it, he can just tell me otherwise, and it'll be fine.
Well, he's gonna have to hope that he has some form of boost or NOS in that car at the moment, because he's down in P10, a couple of tenths of a second off of Jimmy's time. Jimmy's seemingly struggling a little bit here today. He had a great performance there at Imola, especially in the second race with the reverse grid. Wasn't quite able to hold on to the race win at the very end, but he certainly gave it a good shot. We're running on board, though, with the Porsche Works driver, Larry Tenvoorde.
See, actually, he looks... It's so different in driving style. Sometimes you see the elbows out, nice and loose. Larry's almost got that karting vibe to him, where he keeps his elbows in close to the body and uses more bicep to turn the wheel, and it's pretty smooth as a result. It's a bit Formula-esque, but yeah, I would say almost adapted from karting is where that kind of comes from. So pretty cool to see the different driving styles, even in a GT car. I'm kind of big and loose, and my arms are hanging everywhere, and it's probably why I suck at karting when I go back and try to do it now.
Yeah, possibly, but
I'm sure there's other reasons too, but it's fine. Let's not get into it.
Yeah, let's not delve into the details here. But Larry Tenvoorde, he's on his final qualifying lap at the moment. So as long as he's able to keep it on the grey stuff and not pick up an instant point, this lap will count as he heads his way through the Maggots and Beckett section. Make sure you just clip those apexes to perfection. It's all line dependent here. If you get offline a little bit, that's going to mess you up for the next couple of apexes. So you have to be pitch perfect all the way through there. Coming onto the hangar straight, then down towards Stoke Corner for Tenvoorde. And, well, let's see if he's able to repeat his practice times in terms of getting up to pole position. But we're right on board with the visor cam of Jimmy Broadbent, who's kind of still stuck there down in P9.
Yeah, the visor cam on one angle and the bicep cam on the other, as we get a better look at Jimmy's shed inside. A lot of his heroes and idols on the board beside him, and looks pretty good. Different driving style, as you can tell. The elbows are a little more off the body. That's a little more what you normally see in GT drivers. He's catching the car. You're going to see a lot of that with this GT4. But yeah, I'm not sure what he's saying to his stream, but he's probably talking about how the oversteer killed his lap. And hey, that's all part of the fun and games. You mentioned Beckett's and Chapel. For me, the key is, okay, you can drive the car pretty hard through Maggots. You want to, the first part that is, you can attack that first apex. Once you flow it through, Beckett's becomes the key to the entire hangar straight, because if you get a bad exit off that, you get too much curb in Chapel, you don't get a good drive off the corner, you're losing time that whole straightaway. And we talked about drafting and overtaking opportunities. You get down towards Stowe, where you can trail break it in and therefore defend a bit, but yeah, you're kind of a sitting duck. As there you go, we're looking at it right now. Under the Johnny Walker entry, as it's still known in iRacing. I wish iRacing would brand, like, how good is that? How iRacing, you're sitting on a gold mine. I would sell those advertisements in the game as opposed to leaving them to whatever they were when you scanned the track.
Well, it depends on their licensing agreement with the tracks when they get it scanned, of course.
True,
but here's the starting grid then for the first race of this evening. Emily Jones, pole position there. In the number 51 car. Larry Tenvoorde, his first appearance in this series, and he sticks it on the front row. P2 start for him. Dan Suzuki, your championship leader, starts in P3. Depiello in P4 here today. Heike starts in P5 with Rai in that 6th spot on the outside of row number 3. Looking further back down the order, though, Quick Gabby starts in P7 with Jardier in P8. Jimmy Broadbent starts P9 here today with Will Ford from Boosted Media in P10. Cyanide starts in 11th, Gamer Muscle 12th, and Maxime will be the last driver on the starting grid here today as the drivers are steadily taking themselves to those grid spots. We'll go green in just a good couple of moments' time. But before we do so, any quick words, Matt?
Quick, you want me to talk quickly? Is that quick words?
Possibly. You could take it in your own style.
I'm good. We'll get the quick words going when we get the quick machines around this track.
Yeah, of course. So we are a maximum of 30 seconds away from getting the green flag here at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Of course, the main featured battle that we'll be watching is Emery versus Dan Suzuki, since that is the championship lead battle. They start on row 1 and row 2. Respectively, as they'll wait for those red lights to extinguish to go racing here at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. It's a very long hill here today, but we go racing for race number 1 at Silverstone. What a launch there from Dan Suzuki. He's having to cover off Depulio, though, since he had a similarly spectacular launch as they head their way down and towards turn number 1 off Abbey for the first time. So Dan Suzuki a little bit loose coming through there as they head now into the braking zone of a Village Corner. Are there any dives to the inside? There certainly looks, but no passes complete inside the front half of your field. There's a huge amount of squabbling and scrapping, and now spinning in the background, because I believe that was Jardier that was facing the wrong direction.
Yeah, Jardier's going to go to the back of the order. We'll see if he can make up for it, but it's Jimmy Minty Bo. Oh, what a slide. I have to say, well held. We talked about that beautiful livery, and it is going to be just about sideways for Gamer Muscle, but manages to hold on and no contact even more impressively in that situation. Just behind them we see Cyanide trying to get involved in this. There's another change of livery to note as well, and that's obviously for Sanchez Heike. Has a slightly different looking car this week, so keep an eye on him up at the front, because he's another one that's been sticking his nose into the battles during this championship. But Jimmy gets away with it. Nearly, I think he would have been clattered into there. He would have been gone and off the circuit pretty quickly.
Yeah, we're running on board with Gamer Muscle then. James West, as he tries to follow the cars ahead of him, coming through Copse Corner. Such a tricky piece of circuit. You don't really want to run too far out wide there. Can upset the car. And of course, iRacing will give you an instant point if you push wide there. And these guys only have 15 to play with, so if they get 15 instants over the course of any of these races, then they will have to take a trip down pit lane for a drive-through penalty. I don't think we've seen it so far this season, but there's a first time for everything.
Yeah, I think Copse is a tricky one in sim racing because of the sensation of speed. Depending on how you have your monitors set up, or even if you're in VR, the depth of field. Ooh, is that a slowdown from Dan Suzuki, or just a really bad drive off of Beckett's and Chapel, because he just sits still on the straightaway. Lost 3 spots as Jimmy goes side by side again. This time he is elbowed out a little bit wide off the backside of off of Stowe, but into Club, hard on the brakes. Oh, he's got to break it and hold it up, because nearly loses. I think he did actually lose the front of that car. Did he get chopped? No. Okay, he's still in with it. I thought he took damage on that one, but he's all right.
Yeah, Gabby, I think the phrase he used there, elbows out, was certainly fitting to describe that situation. A big shove there from Gabby to force Jimmy out wide, but he's able to recover it and slot back into traffic, which is fantastic to see. This defensive inside line there from Depiello, who's certainly feeling threatened at the moment, taking a very different line through turn number 3 than the other drivers around him. But there's the pair up front. Larry Tenvorda tries to chase down Emily Jones for the race lead, gapping around about 0.6 of a second. Larry's still inside the slipstream here, but Emily's doing a very good job to try and keep him at bay and perhaps try and break that.
I love some of the braking points at Silverstone, because they sweep into corners after big straightaways. It means you can really dance the car and kind of just attack the apex, and then it's a lovely corner left field to come out of, because it's all about drive again. Back to my point though about Copse, where we're heading now. The sensation of speed is very different depending on how much peripheral vision you have, how much depth of field. It's hard to adapt to how much speed you're actually carrying in sim, as opposed to just immediately seeing it and feeling it in real life. And I think for that reason, it's a lot of people try and carry a little bit too much speed, or don't get the braking point exactly right. in Cops, and that's where you see a lot of people running out wide. I do it all the time. I'm sure lots of people watching can relate, and that is where you get those incident points you're talking about. So it's a trickier corner, I think, in sim racing than even in real life.
Well, let's just hope that Matthew gets it right. I'll just leave that one be. Everyone will groan at that. I'll get my coat. But Rye, he's down the hangar straight right now, trying to sit inside the slipstream of the cars ahead of him. That's Heike further down the road. Depp Yellow is also not too far away either. We've had a pretty calm opening portion of this race. We had, of course, a little fracas inside the first couple of corners of the entire race with Jardier getting spun round. But everything else is pretty calm. There's some side-by-side action deeper in the pack, though. Dan Suzuki trying his recovery drive here down the inside of Gamer Muscle in the back of the shot there into the Vale chicane, and he's able to get that pass done. So, yeah, Dan Suzuki losing out a huge amount in the opening couple of laps of this race due to that, I think, suspected slowdown penalty that he had to serve on the opening lap. And the opening lap is the worst place to be able to have to get a slowdown penalty. Look at this from Jimmy, looking to the inside through Cobb's corner, not quite able to make it work and get the pass done over Gamer Muscle. But returning to my... that was through Abby, excuse me. That wasn't Cobb's corner, but fast right-handers nonetheless. And Broadbent, again, just looking all over the back. I'm going to return to my topic at some point that I was going to go over. Big up and under move for Broadbent, trying to get the speed off the corner, and he'll have the station all the way down into Brooklands now.
Yeah, he did well there to just basically try and force Gamer Muscle off the line a little bit so that he could attack, and the undercut nearly worked off the corner. But now you're right, the slipstream's not as effective as the Cup car, but he had the run a little bit deeper on the brakes, but still gets the nose in well. That gets him the setup for Brooklands, and then this is the tricky one, Luffield, because he's going to try and go wide and take the drive. Okay, if Gamer Muscle slides like that, it certainly helps. The wide and late and straight line off the corner to get the power down doesn't always work in Luffield, because even if you attack sort of the inside, you can slow it down enough at the apex to still get it pointed because of the slow speed. But this is a good little battle. Jimmy's smiling. I think they're really enjoying this. This is a great race, and he's certainly having to work for it, Jimmy. He's got the run again, but it's such a tricky place to try and make a move into Maggots.
Yeah, he's really enjoying this, isn't he? Looking to drive his right-hand side for Maggots, but of course no progress being made through there. He's trying to force Gamer Muscle into a mistake here. This is the battle for P8 out there on circuit right now. Jimmy's looking for a good run out of Beckett's into Chapel now to be able to capitalize on a run of speed down the hangar straight. But I think Gamer Muscle has been able to recover things somewhat coming through that section. I was scared he was going to get offline a little bit and compromise his run, but it looks like he's safe for now. They're side-by-side ahead of these guys with Dan Suzuki heading down the inside of Gabby. So Dan Suzuki picking up a couple of spots as he tries to work his way back through the field. Look at this run of speed, though, just briefly for Jimmy. He's not going to be able to make the move into Vale just yet, but there's the battle for the race lead going on right now. Emily and Larry have really pulled out a gap over the rest of the field on the order of about 4 seconds at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in front of Jimmy, we saw Gabby and Dan, as you mentioned, side by side. So here's a look back at the start. Yardier, we mentioned, fell back to the back of the order right at the opening, and that was due to this incident. As we look at the Vodafone replay, it was pretty straightforward heading into the corner. Side by side action behind, and I think he just lost it on his own. I thought maybe he got into the back of the car in front of him, and therefore it just kind of pirouetted the rear as it overtook the front end that was slowed quickly, but no, it didn't. Yeah, I think he just lost that on his own.
Yeah, and that's what I thought as well. I thought he had a little bit of contact, but he just dropped the rear end of the car around, and it was simple self-spin in the end. Of course, cold tyres on the start of the race are certainly not going to help. But look at this train of cars currently forming up behind Gamer Muscle now. Jimmy still hasn't yet been able to find a way through, and it's slowing him up and allowing some of these other drivers behind to catch up. Big punt to the rear bumper of Cyanide. Jardier moves him out of the way, coming through Luffield corner, and Jardier is able to gain the position, but that was a big shove there, and Cyanide might not want to play nice now due to him having been moved. He'll try and move Jardier if push comes to shove.
Give it back to him. Rubbing's racing, right? He's got down the inside. Cops is tricky, but this will actually force Jardier way out wide. He'll take an incident point for that. But it's actually giving a bit of a chance behind to Boosted Media. Will trying to make his way up the inside. Not going to work. Jardier manages to keep enough run on the runoff area, I suppose, to get back in there. But good move from Cyanide, showing a little bit of nerve in this series. He hasn't exactly had the best runs in this, but this is a good little race for him, shaping up quite well. And Gamer Muscle's really allowing Yardier to get back into it. You mentioned that train. Obviously, that battle's opened up a bit more of a gap, and what we didn't see is actually Jimmy Broadbent has cleared him. So now we'll see if Jimmy can get a run to catch up to Gabby.
Yeah, so it's good that he's been able to get that pass done, because now he won't be threatened too much from behind by a couple of these drivers that you see on the screen right now. This is the view on board with Will Ford from Boosted Media, as he's just going to play this one patiently, try and pick his way through, just in case these guys have a little bit of a problem with each other, like they have done already. Jardy is definitely the faster car out of all of them at the moment. He just had that spin in the opening portion of the race that put him down all this way. But looking further forward, though, because the battle for P3 is starting to get a little close as well. Depp Yellow, Heike, Rai, all involved in this.
Yeah, lots of battling in the midfield as Larry Tenvoorde does the fastest lap at the front overall for this race. Not much quicker than Emery, likely due to the toe, the fact that he sits in second, but it's a half a second up in that battle. 5 seconds clear of DePilio, who's done well to hold on to his position. Hasn't had to do much with everyone battling behind, but yeah, it's great to see some of these battles in that came in. I'd be curious, and it's certainly a question I'm going to pose to some of them, I think, at the end of this, is what they thought driving this car in these race situations, because I think it's just such a hoot. It's such a fun car. Sometimes slower cars, easy, I don't want to say easier, but less... more forgiving, I think, is the word to drive, can create these racing opportunities because it's just about the racing and less about concentrating on all the car control at the same time.
I think Jardier is currently involved in a fight with Cyanide right now, but we're with the Vodafone on board with Heike as he heads his way through Cop's Corner, trying to lock onto the back of Depp Yellow, but not really finding all that much success at the moment. Here is Xavier Sanchez. So he's going to have to look to try and make a little bit more progress in the last couple of minutes of this race. Of course, 17-minute race here to start off. We'll get a little bit longer race once we get into that second race of the day. That's going to be 22 minutes long. There are your two race leaders at the moment, Emery, Larry Tenvoorde. Larry's been able to close up the gap a little bit here over this last lap or so, and really putting Emily under a lot of pressure here. She's going to have to try and fight for this one at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. What a time to close it up. You say the end. I mean, there's still 6 minutes left, so Larry's slowly and surely figuring this battle out, figuring the car out. Not quite as brutal on its tires as the Cup car, just due to less power, less weight over the rear wheels, lots of different factors, but yeah, this car stays alive for quite a while if you flow it nicely. So this should just be a straight battle. It's not as much that we need to talk about. Whereas as we talk about Pesk, it's all about the tires. Larry's dead focused, isn't he? Look at those eyes. He's trying his heart out here.
Yeah, I haven't seen him blink while we've been watching him looking to the inside, then through the loop. Can't quite able to get quite alongside here. He's got a little bit of an overlap though, headed for the left-hand kink. Ooh, Emily almost didn't give him space to be able to do that. Thankfully, they were able to get through the corner okay without any incident, but now Larry is turning up the heat in this battle for the race lead. Late on the brakes then, into the left of Brooklands. There's a dooring through the middle of the corner. Emily gets pushed wide and out into the runoff a little bit, and Larry will let her go on the inside here, back to the race lead. That's great sportsmanship.
Yeah, that's really good. He definitely stayed wide there and gave it back to her. And you can see he was actually clenching his teeth as they came out of Antry onto the Wellington straight, because he wanted to keep his foot in it, but he wasn't sure he was going to be left the room, and he thought contact was coming, but as a racer, he just went for it anyway. Good battle, and I love that he gave the position back, because now he gets to go for it. I don't think it was contact that time. I think Emery just lost it on her own, and she'll just collect it barely before hitting the wall, but she's going to lose a lot of position as a result. In fact, taking to the old, I think they call it the historic pit exit now, as she'll rejoin the circuit, but it does so in 6th place. Hey, great battle. You got to give it to them. And unfortunately, she's the victim of war, but it comes out with an unscathed car still, so she'll see if she can work her way back. There's still 4 minutes to do so.
Yeah, just unfortunate incident there coming through Cop's Corner. Of course, you know, it's not a corner that's a stranger to those sorts of incidents. You know, if you go side by side there, you're really, really playing with fire when it comes to the contact, because it's such a single line coming through there to get the best speed off. But having a look at the replay here in just a couple of moments, as Larry's actually losing time to the cars behind as well, thanks to all this battling that he's had to do. But there's the dive down the inside there at Brooklands. There's the dooring through the middle of the corner. That sends Emily wide. Larry does a good job here of letting Emily go, because he felt he was at fault for that contact. But little did they know at this point, there's going to be a contact in the very next corner.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I'm not 100% certain. I want to see this again, because I think it was just the fact, yeah, he gets a phenomenal drive, obviously, by going wider, getting the power down and letting her go. He's always going to have a run back at it. But when they turn in, ooh, maybe there was a touch. There might have just been a little kiss on the rear end that allowed, well, actually, I shouldn't say allowed, but put Emery a little out of sorts. I think he wasn't sure if there was contact or not. It was probably so light, he might have even got a 0x on that one, because I could kind of see him reach for his mic, and maybe he was trying to get on the radio to ask, hey, did I actually make contact or not? So he's going to keep his foot in it. He's in all of that. That 5-second gap they had has come down significantly. DePilio's all over the backside of him. Oh, and is he actually, wow, what a sportsman. Oh. What a sportsman. So he feels he's gotten into it. He knows he's not in this championship. He's here as a guest racer with Porsche. He's going to let them all go and make sure Emery gets at least one position back from all that. So good on him. Good for Larry.
I will give you a clap, Larry Tenvorder. So obviously he's, like you said, he's not in the shout when it comes to the championship, because he missed the first couple of rounds, and he knows the championship is more important to Emily. So he's just let her go. And now Depiello leads this race, by the way. He's just been pretty calm out there in the front couple of positions, but now he's the man that leads them round. And with 2 minutes to go, the driver behind him of Heike could have a shot. If he's able to get just a couple of tenths of a second closer in these final couple of laps, we might still see yet another shootout for the race lead.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't done yet. What a turn of events. You got to say as well for Emery, she's going to be I'm sure she appreciates the sportsmanship, but I always laugh when that happens, because the person who effectively put you in that position now is right behind you again, despite trying to be the nice person. You're like, ah, damn, I got to deal with this all over, because that battle will resume, no doubt, between them, just in a slightly different context. But yeah, great for DePilio. He's been very consistent in this race, stayed at the front of the order, in fact, staying ahead of Mr. Racecraft Dan Suzuki, who's just 2 spots back. Rai as well. This is probably his best showing, so perhaps someone who's a little bit more at home in this 718, the Cayman. Looking for a good finishing position overall, but yeah, DePilio, this is phenomenal for him. I'm sure he'll take it. I mean, a win's a win. Yeah, okay, it comes in different circumstances, but let's pretend. We don't even have to pretend. I mean, yes, Larry gives the position up himself, but let's say that's a penalty in real life. Hey, that's racing. He gets that on merit, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are riding on board right now with Quick Gabby, who's has been able. Oh, we actually got a fight for the race lead going on right about now. I just saw those positions swap around a little bit. As Depiello and Heike are going side by side here. And what I think is the final lap of this race. Depiello is able to hold on here, but Heike is really turning up the heat. Now Rai is looking to get himself involved in that 3rd spot as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Suzuki thinks there are positions for the taking here to help his championship as he looks to the inside of Luffield, but there's no lane there to be able to work with. 20 seconds left on the clock, so this is confirmed the final lap of the race, and all of a sudden things are starting to happen here at the very front of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And Emily Jones, I think she was just 2 points shy of the championship lead, would have probably jumped Dan Suzuki if not for the contact up front. Has him in her sights. He's just in front, not quite close enough to make a move, but with everything going on, you never know what's going to happen toward the finish. Bit of a gap for DePilio after the Heike came under attack from Rai, but Dan Suzuki on the back of him. This isn't done. We still have a great opportunity down the hangar straight.
Yeah, so this is it then. Last time coming down the hangar straight. There's still a considerable gap between DePilio and Heike here, but you can see DePilio, he's still concerned about that slipstream, just weaving back and forth to try to break it, but he still has enough of a gap here into Stowe. As long as he doesn't butcher the corner, he's quite slow through the middle. It gives a slight advantage there to Heike. I mean, I don't think there's a dive on here for Heike into Vale, so as long as Depiello is able to keep it clean, I think he'll come away with the race win. They're all nose to tail coming through the final chicane up towards Club Corner. For the final time in race 1, Depiello wins a race for the first time here in the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars Series. Fantastic work from the driver of the 64, Heike, on the podium as well. Same with Rai. What a race.
Yeah, phenomenal. Great action. And a couple of guys. I mean, Rai as well on the podium. Mathieu is looking pretty impressive today. So great to see these Caymans on track. I do think they're phenomenal cars. Such great little machines, great driver's car. And there you go. Look at it overall. D'Apelia, first win of the season. Definitely a race well earned from him.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's, like you said, the coverage of the race results. Just 3.5 tenths of a second between D'Apelia and Heike at the very end of that event. Rai, third place. Dan Suzuki, good points haul for him, still in fourth place, but not really a massive gain when you consider Emery was the car that finished directly behind him. Those are the two drivers at the very top of the championship order right now. Larry ten Voorde, of course, was at the very front of this race for a long time, but due to him feeling at fault with the incident with Emily, falls back into the 6th spot. And then you see those final couple of runners out there. No one retired from this event. Cyanide, Maxime, Gamer Muscle, P11, 12, and 13 respectively. So that is race number 1 done and dusted. We have a bit of a 5-minute break here in between the two races. But again, it just that race kind of exemplifies how different these Caymans race compared to the 911 GT3 Cup cars. It's not as powerful as a slipstream, like I said. They have to work a little bit harder to try and manufacture their own opportunities rather than just getting one gifted to them time and time again, coming down into the braking zone at the end of a straight.
Yeah, but you can really hang it out in the corners, and I think we saw a lot of great battles that I want to say was the closest overall gap from front to back that we've seen this season in this series, although Barcelona was pretty close as well. So yeah, it's great to see that everyone's adapted well to the car.
Yeah, and of course, one of the highlights in that race, of course, maybe a little bit of a low light for some as well, but that contact between Larry ten Voorde and Emery, of course, you know, such close margins in that. You can't really call exactly one driver at fault, but Larry ten Voorde thought he was at fault. He basically let the entire field go just to get back behind Emery, and that's a great display of sportsmanship from the Porsche Works driver.
Yeah, super sportsman, and credit to him for that. It's, you know, you could see how competitive he was being. I'm sure he's almost disappointed, in fact, not by the contact necessarily, but that they didn't get to resume the battle, because it really was a great battle for the lead that never really materialized to what it could have been. So, hey, look, he stuck his hand up whether or not he was at fault and decided to drop back down the order. So knows he's not running in the championship, probably feels a little guilty that he's tapped someone out of it who is, but Emery's still recovered, I think, what was it, to 6th? So she'll be right in the middle for the reverse grid and get to do it all again.
Yeah, let's just talk about that, though, because if you're not aware, in this series, we have a full reverse grid for race number 2. So the driver finished last will be on pole position for race number 2. And that driver is Gamer Muscle, so he'll take to pole position for the second race. The other driver on the front row will be Maxime as well. So, you know, these reverse grids, you know, give us a chance to see some fresh names at the very front of the field that we don't usually see.
Yeah, and I don't know how I feel necessarily about today's reverse grid because everyone was a lot closer. Gamer Muscle obviously had an incident that put him back there because we saw him in the middle of the order for most of that race. But wider circuit, decent braking points, but still quite a bit of room to get around. I'm not sure contact is necessarily as inevitable as it has been at some of the other tracks that we've seen in the reverse grid. So this could be a pretty interesting race off the first few laps as they jostle for position. We could see some really good overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, we should too. We are just a couple of minutes away, actually, from getting confirmation of our grid and the start of race number 2. But, you know, I certainly can't wait for it. I'm super intrigued to see how Dan and Emery are going to be able to work their way through this field because we saw a couple of drivers get stuck behind each other. I remember Jimmy getting stuck behind Gamer Muscle, for example. So the speed delta that you need, the speed difference between a fast driver and a slow driver to be able to have many chances of getting past seems to be a little bit higher in these cars. So that's the risk here. If you get stuck behind someone, you can't find a way through, basically game over.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I love the reverse grid because you get different drivers getting different opportunities. Gamer Muscle could be someone, again, we saw the train behind him. Maybe he's able to defend quite a bit. Cyanide certainly had his elbows out a few times in that race. It was good to see him not taking any prisoners, certainly not being... or not letting Yardier get off the hook easily for giving him the little bump and go, the real push to pass, not the button style at Luffield. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I love the reverse grid as well. We saw this at Imola. Certain drivers, if they just stay clean, if they don't make mistakes, and everyone's kind of jockeying and jostling behind them, they can hold that position and make it really interesting to see how consistency gets a result in this. It's kind of given that opportunity. So yeah, hopefully they can all keep it together in that regard too, because it really is, if you're not on the pace, you get a reverse grid, you got to think, okay, all I have to do is just be consistent, and you're definitely going to inherit a few positions if you're able to do that.
There we go. We are just about to head into a very intriguing race number 2 this evening in the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Star Series. Of course, we have those professional sim drivers on just a little bit later on in their 911 GT3 Cup cars, but the warm-up is over between these sessions, and we'll get the starting grid for race number 2 up in just a couple of moments' time. I can confirm, though, that it is Gamer Muscle on pole position for this one, so let's see what he's able to do from that position. There is the starting grid. Maxime on that front row as well. Cyanide starts in P3 here for race 2. Wilford from Boosted Media in P4. Jardier P5, and Jimmy starts 6th. Gabby in 7th place. Larry Tenvoda in P8 here today. Emery in P9. Dan Suzuki P10. And then those last drivers on the starting grid: Rai, Heike, and Death Yellow. So that's the order then coming into this second race. In fact, they've all already taken themselves to the starting grid, so we'll just about get the race underway in just a couple of seconds' time. There they all are, ready to go racing for race 2 at Silverstone. We are underway in the Tag Heuer All-Stars event as they all head their way down and towards Abbey for the first time of this 22-minute event. Cyanide able to hold on to P3. They're cutting off the nose of Jardier. This is where Jardier's race kind of ended in that opening race, and he dives towards the outside. Are we seeing 3-4 wide? We're seeing 4 wide. Deeper in the pack there. How have they been able to make it work? They're still 4 wide in towards the loop there. Emery and Dan Suzuki are all involved in that. Those are your 2 championship leaders. They can't afford to make a mistake here, but somehow they all get through unscathed, apart from, I believe that was Larry Tenvoda going for a spin.
Yeah, I think it was. He's definitely just he's still rejoining, trying to let it spin back around on the grass, and sticks it back into first gear. Let's see if he can make back the gap. It's happened early, but that's going to put him up potentially out of contention for the win unless something bizarre happens up front. I can't believe they were 4 wide and got away with that, especially at the loop. The slowest corner where everyone's trying to get to the inside. Flashing lights right now from Maxime, perhaps trying to indicate she's not too thrilled with some of the contact that's been going on, but that was a battle. And hey, full credit to Cyanide. You're right. He got it a little loose, a little sideways, came over, cut the nose of Jardier and Boosted Media, and somehow held it together. And that, I think, is what created that Constantine effect behind that everyone ended up side by side. But we're not done yet.
3 wide? Oh, 3 wide into Maggots and Beckets. That's not usually a good idea, but they keep it all together. Just side by side between Gabby and Maxime, as they're all scrapping for position coming through the very fast lefts and rights of the Maggots and Beckett section. And now the slipstream comes into effect down the Hanger Straight. Jimmy Broadbent, by the way, has had an amazing start to the race. He started P6. He's up into P3 here. That is incredible. 3 wide, though, down into towards Stowe. Emery getting the 2-for-1 special down the inside. Can she complete it? She's a little bit further ahead than Maxime is right now, and she does get the position done. That is incredible. Meanwhile, further up the field, Jardier is having a look on Gamer Muscle for the race lead.
If you go back to that start, Jimmy made an audaciously bold move and made it stick at Village, and that was another of the effects that created that 4 wide, but he stuck it down the inside, and it gave him just enough to make it, I think, probably 3 spots in that move alone, because then he got to run toward the loop and managed to bypass everyone. Not done yet either, because he's on the attack, and this is for the lead as Gamer Muscle actually slows him down. He tried to tuck in thinking it might give him the run. He's not done yet. Again, it's into Village. Again, it's on the inside, but this time it's contact as Gamer Muscle came over and Jimmy's hit him in the door.
Yeah, that was it. Alonso says you always have to leave the space. Jimmy had basically a core of a car down the inside there, and Gamer Muscle turned it on him. So, unfortunately, in my view, that was all Gamer Muscle's doing for not allowing the space on the inside. Meanwhile, here's Emery looking to the inside on Gabby. Coming into Brooklands then, and Emery's able to gain the position. So Emery's making slow but steady progress in the opening portion of this race. She's up to P3 already here. So good chance with the 18.5 minutes left remaining. Should be able to fight for those front couple of spots. So Jardier now leads this race thanks to that little bit of contact that sent Gamer Muscle around as well. But yeah, Jimmy up into 2nd place as well now. So things are already starting to shuffle quite a bit in here in this field.
Definitely, yeah. And Emery's benefited quite a bit from that last incident at the front because she's now up to 3rd place. And just behind her, quick Gabby. We haven't mentioned her much today. She didn't necessarily star in the first race, but she's back behind her rival, and her and Emery have been so closely matched all season. It would be great to see her latch onto the back of Emery this time in this Cayman, and she's doing exactly that now as they run down hangers, so might even have a chance for a move into Stowe.
Yeah, here's the look down the inside at that medium speed, well, far high to medium speed right-hander. Emery's gone scared offline here. Might just give the opportunity to Gabby to make her way down and past into Vale, but she's going to back out of that move. So let's have a look at the replay then. This is the instant at the very front of the field. Game of Muscle and Jardier going side by side ahead of Jimmy, coming through the first sector here. Jimmy's plan is to try and follow through of the tire tracks off someone. Has to take avoiding action there to avoid running out to the back of Game of Muscle. There he is alongside, and just gets squeezed.
So I think Gamer actually thought he could take a look at Yardy under braking and then realized too late Jimmy was there. And at that point, you're right. He didn't need to close, well, shouldn't have closed the door. He should have stayed out of it. If he holds wide, you can even necessarily pinch Jimmy through Village and then actually still get the line for the loop. So didn't really need to do that. Jimmy, unfortunately, takes the brunt of it, I suppose, and that he gets a bit of damage. Obviously, puts Gamer Muscle further down the order, but it's created a gap that Jimmy's now trying to chase down. Although it's interesting, we've got kind of the, is it the 2 minty to 3 minty? I would say boys, but minty people as Emery is up there and now actually going for second, but it's the mint cars 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, absolutely neck and neck through Brooklands, and Gabby's looking all over the back of this one to try and make it in, but it's contact between the two of them, 3 wide off the corner. Gabby goes down the middle, able to pick up the position off of Emery. Rye is looking on the back of this as well. Everything's so congested here in this battle for the podium positions, and I'm not sure exactly which way it's going to end up. Jimmy goes very wide there, coming out of left field, compromises his run all the way down in towards Cop's corner. Gabby looks to the inside. Is Jimmy going to push a little too wide here? He goes out into the runoff, picks up an instant point. Emery's looking underneath Gabby now, but this will be the outside for the first apex of Maggots and Beckett's. It's 2 by 2 in this field, coming through one of the most famous portions of racetrack in the world, and Emery's just about been able to get through.
Oh, wow. I don't know how Gabby slips back in there as well. She nearly caught the back end of Emery and then nearly got spun by Rye, but she holds on to it. Might have compromised her line a bit through Beckett. So the run of the Chapel, look at this. What is that, 6, 7? I can't even count that high. Cars in a row getting a draft down toward Cops, and somehow Jimmy and Emery end up the 2 in the front again, despite Emery almost losing it in the middle of left field. So really good battle, and they're going to hang the cars out as they come out of Stowe, and another lap in the bag, but 15 minutes of this still to go. It's ridiculous to think that this is how close they all are, and Yardia has benefited from this. 3 seconds ahead. Larry Tenvorda's caught up to, I mean, this is on. This is everyone involved.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the replay. This is the Vodafone onboard with Gabby. Through that entire situation, you can see this side-by-side ahead of her. Which car does she try to follow in behind? She tries to follow in behind Jimmy. There's the contact and basically the Red Sea parts, and she's able to find the gap to not get collected into any form of instant there. You can see on the live pictures, Emery's currently looking all over the back of Jimmy as we speak right now, as we do return to those live pictures. It's fantastic battling here for these final couple of podium spots, and Jardier is looking at his relative time right now and rubbing his hands together because he's gaining time hand over fist.
Yeah, unreal. Poor Jimmy's going to be thinking, man, I'm just trying to take my line, and everyone's chopping him down on him, but this time Emery will fan out of the draft and get into the inside of, Brooklands into Lovefield. I forget the first corner name, as Lovefield's where all the action has been, and it's going to be there again as we're 2 wide for 2 rows. It's Emery and Jimmy, and then behind it's Gabby and Rye, and Gabby's come out better on that, but the battle resumes up front. They've side by sides pretty much reach over. There was a famous, I think was it MX5 race here once at Silverstone, where one obviously was a right hand, one was a left hand drive, and one of the drivers reached over and folded in the side mirror of the car beside, and they could almost do that right now in the Caymans.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be the case here. This is great stuff. Jardier is able to get 4.1 seconds ahead of everyone else right now due to all of this scrapping going on, but they all fall in line, and Emery's able to put a couple of clean laps together. Then I get the feeling that time will start to come down bit by bit once again. But out of Chapel now, here on lap number 4 of the race. 13.5 minutes left to go. Still this huge train of cars here for second place. Rye is getting a little close there to Gabby, looking to the inside and not able to get anything done there. It was more of a move to the inside to scare the driver ahead. And now, if he can get a good run out here out of Stowe, he might have an option to go to the inside of Vale, but Gabby's all over it and all aware.
Yeah, it's tricky to get down the inside of Vale. You pretty much have to be moved done when you're making the corner, because otherwise you get into club and double apex back the other direction. You're on the outside, you're going to lose all your drive down the straightaway, and the move's not really ever going to be completed. So yeah, it's a tricky one. It is tricky. It's so tempting every single time, but you've got to be all over the back of them coming out of Cops, or excuse me, out of Stowe to make that work. So yeah, what a battle though. Again, we see it. Emery now on the attack to try and catch down Yardier. 12 minutes to do so. Further back, still battling for position as we see Boosted Media side by side right now with DePelio, who's the winner of race 1. He's struggling to get through the field because, again, everyone's been so close, and it's Heike's getting back into this. I'm still surprised not to see Larry Timvora getting closer and closer to this battle, because he's just sitting back right now behind Cyanide.
Well, Larry Tenvoda actually has a little bit of damage to the front end, so I don't think that car is too healthy right now as these guys continue to go door to door through Brooklands and left field now. DePelio on the inside, able to hold on. The cutback move from Boosted Media almost was prevented there by Heike for parking his nose on the inside of left field there, so they're lucky not to get crossed up and all, well, spun in front of basically everyone at this point, but Will Ford from Boosted Media again, just a slight show of the nose into Cops. These guys just kind of graze the brake a little bit coming through Cops corner. They can't go flat out, of course. They can't just lift through there, so they're just tapping the brakes to try and get the car planted to carry the most speed through there. But of course, in some cars, you know, high downforce cars, you don't even need to go anywhere near the brake coming through that corner.
Interestingly, yeah, you're probably right about the damage with Larry Timvoda. He's still done the fastest lap of this race, and that probably is due to the fact that everyone else hasn't really had a clean lap because they've been battling everyone around them, so that was when he was catching up. The RDA out front, the battle for 6th is on, and it's not even going to have a chance to breathe. We're not even going to know who's in what position as the timing screen swaps around. Again, Boosted Media tries to go for the undercut, flips the backside of Heike in doing so, and that's going to bring Dan Suzuki back in 3 wide again, this time into Vale. But this is what I'm talking about. Boosted Media, he's close enough alongside, he'll have to be given racing room, but he isn't far enough alongside to get the move done, and therefore it just comes back the other way, and 2 positions inherited from that battle by Dan Suzuki as he comes out of club this time, and looking closer to the front is Jimmy Minty Boy. Oh no, Minty Boy's out of steam.
Yeah, he loses the position there to Rye. That's the battle for P4 out there on Seika right now, but Jimmy will look back on him coming in towards Village Corner. Down the inside, can't quite get it done. Rye's able to fight around the outside, which give him the inside for the loop. Jimmy will take that big wide arc to try and find the speed off the corner, but not sure if he's entirely successful in doing so here. Of course, like I said, the draft isn't as powerful in these Caymans as they are in the 911 GT3 Cup cars, so it gives you less leeway in terms of trying to make a move down into sections of track like this, Brooklands, so he's just going to have to stay in line for now. Ooh, Ryan has to be careful with that, otherwise he might get a slowdown penalty if he cuts that curve too much.
Almost like commentating on horse racing. Minty Boy. Sounds like a horse name, doesn't it? I hope if Jimmy ever gets a horse, that's what it's called.
I have no doubt that if Jimmy gets a horse, that's going to be called. Oh, it's going to be called Shed Boy, and the stable is going to be called the Shed.
Well, maybe that's what maybe his new house that he's purchased and talked about, like, you could have some different things. TP Hut, I think our producer's saying those would work well. If he paints his house mint and just, I'm Minty Boy now, like, just owns it. A mint house. I don't know how I'd feel about that, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. You know, he did share that news a while ago that he has bought a house. So, you know, wouldn't put it past him to try and paint the outside of that as minty green as possible. But right now, I mean, it's as minty green as our background and our graphics right now. Not sure if that was intentional or not.
It works. Maybe he's just like subliminally changing the Tag Heuer branding. Well, actually trying to make positions back, because Rye shows the nose to Emery. That causes them to lose a little momentum. And now, can he get the braking done? This is it. This is exactly it. You need to be so deep under braking, and it's still such a tricky place to pass. Jimmy's aware of it this time, though, and gets out of the move to try and get an undercut. He may get a run toward Abby as a result of this, but it's going to give Emery a bit of breathing space. It also brings a few people back into that fight as well, as Tepilio gets a little bit closer, and so too does Dan Suzuki.
Yeah, he does. So, yeah, this is going to get close now. Jimmy's definitely not out of this one. Rye has shown a couple of vulnerabilities, but here comes Tepilio. Look at big dive. Big dive down the inside there.
I think that was fair.
And here comes Dan Suzuki as well. He's looking for an opportunity through the loop. So due to Tepilio going so offline there, he's lost a chunk of time to Dan, and Dan's going to, take that one all day.
I love that Tepilio hasn't come through the order as quickly or as I guess early in the race, but he's still doing it. He's being very efficient, and he's making the most of opportunities. So our race 1 winner up to now 7th place, maybe 6th when this is all over, as he and Dan Suzuki continue to battle for position. Lovefields tricky. He'll just park the bus. Dan Suzuki. Oh yeah, he did. I think in fact there was probably contact we didn't quite see as a result of Tepilio committing to try and get the undercut, but we still have 7 minutes left. So if he continues to pick them off one by one, he might be in for another podium position.
Yeah, that is certainly a possibility at this stage. 7 minutes left to go, and I'm very conscious of that gap between P1 and P2 right now. It's 1.5 seconds, so that gap was at over 4 seconds at one point during this race. So Emily has done a fantastic job to try and catch this gap, but you've got to be concerned about the overheating the tires. We're pushing them so much at this stage. He still needs that little bit of operating window to be able to go for the pass in the final couple of laps.
Go for it. Forget the tires. Go for it. She wants the win she didn't get in race 1, and she is absolutely out to hunt down Yardier. The last lap, she was over a second quicker, 1.1 seconds, and the gap's now down to a second. So expect this battle to heat up in the next minute, or excuse me, next lap even. Which I guess is just over a minute, so fair comment either way. As Larry Temvord has actually rejoined the fight. Maverick's re-engaging, sir, as he's now back on Tepilio, and perhaps seeing us or sensing a chance to get back into this without being too involved. I think he probably felt a little guilty about messing with the championship, but certainly was great to see him battling at the front last race, so we'll see if he can work his way through as well.
Yeah, it looks like, at least with my view of Larry's car right now, it looks like someone's punched that Porsche in the face. Basically, that is just a big old dent in the front bumper, which is not ideal by any means. Of course, these cars don't have much in the way of aerodynamics, but you still have to be concerned about anything suspension-wise or wheel damage going on with these cars. But having a look back to, of course, Jimmy, and you've also got Dan Suzuki here in this one as well. Dan is losing quite a number of points to Emery at the moment, so I think he has to get a move on to keep his championship hopes alive.
Yeah, Ed, it is. I mean, it is a championship for these guys, more about their communities, the prize pool and whatnot is able to go to their communities, their following that they've developed and worked hard to establish. So it's still something on the line, and I'm sure with, again, I say the halfway point, we're near the halfway point, we're around 4 of 10. You're going to start to think about that picture a little more, but I think it's great to see. Certainly, I think the first week, Cyanide had just moved house. A couple of the guys maybe came in thinking, oh yeah, whatever, I'll practice that later. And then it was so quick at the front. I think a lot of these guys have put a little more time in it. It's really closed this field up. I think the All-Star race it's getting better and better. It's a lot of fun. In fact, I would say some of the driving standards in terms of going wheel to wheel have been better than Pesk at times, because Pesk has been pretty pushy this year. So yeah, a lot of fun to watch these guys go at it as they get very close through Meggetts, Beckett's, and now into Chapel, as they nearly came to contact in the braking, but well held and well judged by Dan Suzuki, and now he might have a run on Jimmy.
Yeah, let's have a look. Oh, he's going to go to driver's right-hand side to give the inside for Stowe. Jimmy left the lane there, surprisingly enough, but Dan's overcommitted to the corner. He shoves Jimmy wide out into the runoff. Jimmy's able to hold it together, though. Doesn't spin, but loses the position, and Dan will give him the position back due to him being up pole.
But look who just benefited again. The man I said that's making the most of opportunities. Tepilio's parting the seas right now as he works his way to the front. Now up to what is 5th place. Quick Gabby just in front. He still has a chance at a podium here. Meanwhile, look way ahead in the distance. We've got the battle for the lead on. Emery is all over the back of Yardy. As we said, it was going to be about one more lap. 3 minutes to go, so 2 laps, and she could still get this done.
Yeah. It's still a very big possibility, and Yardier, he has to give the defensive effort of his life in the final couple of laps here. Look at the run, though, that Emery got off of the loop, and she can carry that through now injury, and down on towards the Wellington Straight right now, and well, towards the outside for Brooklands is the option that Emery's going to go for. Has she overcommitted on the brakes here? Goes very wide through the middle of the corner. She still has the inside for Luffield then. The RDA tried to fight on the outside line, and they're just absolutely equal coming through the middle of the corner. Yardia might be able to get a gun run off here due to the wider radius, but again, the speed advantage and now the inside line advantage through Woodcock goes Emily's way. I don't think Yardia is able to quite keep a nose in here, and he's going to have to drop back behind. So Emily Jones back to the pointy end of the field with about a lap and a half remaining.
Well done. Well held. Luffield's such a fun racing corner because, as I said, you can come into it exiting out of Brooklands and carry your speed for Brooklands, attack Brooklands, and it's such a slow corner. You enter it tight, you can hold it in and then get the drive off it, but that also means around the outside, you're opening the radius and you can carry a little bit more speed. So it really is a great corner to see cars be side by side in, and Yardia tried his utmost to hold that line, but Emery just a little too much. So trying to keep a toe down the straightaway. As we said, it's not quite as effective in these cars, but he'll do everything he can to try and get back up onto Emery and maybe have a sniff at the win. But the lap time difference has been so significant, it's hard to imagine at this point Emery not just running away with it. As 2 minutes on the clock might be the start of the last lap this time by.
Yeah, this will be because they're going 2-minute 13s in terms of lap time, and we have 1 minute and 49 left. So this is going to be the start of the last lap then. So 1 to go here in race 2 of the Porsche Tag Heuer All-Stars event. This is round number 4 here at Silverstone, and Emery has the race lead and tries to pull the gap over Jardier, and she's gaining tenths of a second a corner at the moment. Impressive stuff there from Emily Jones. But look at all this congestion still deeper in the pack involving Gabby. You've got Rai, Tepiello, Jimmy involved. There's Dan Suzuki looking to try and recover a couple of points as well because he's losing a lot right now to Emery due to her being in the race lead and him down here in these minor positions.
Yeah, and Emery's going to make the most of it. And we said she was deprived of the win in race 1, and therefore, you know, the championship was 2 points coming into it. Dan finishes ahead, but now she's going to get a ton of points in the bag at the end of this lap, presumably, as it's now a 7-10 lead. Meanwhile, though, the rest of the battle we've got to keep an eye on is anyone's game. The battle all the way from Rai in 3rd down to Larry Tenvuda in 8th. In fact, not even far behind that. If anyone were to cough up or have a hiccup is Heike, who's in 9th. So yeah, anyone really in any position when we get to the end of this, and hopefully we'll have a good part of discretion involved in this battle, but we can see some moves.
Yeah, so 25 seconds left on the play clock, if to use a North American sporting term, before we get confirmation that this is a final lap. But we'll basically call it as if it is 15 seconds left to go through Maggots and Beckett's. Then Rai holding on to this podium spot at the moment, but he has a bunch of drivers behind him that really wouldn't mind getting themselves onto that final step of the podium as well. So there's the time expired. So the next time Emery heads away across the line, that will be the checkered flag. But what's going to happen here in this battle further down the order, we'll just have to wait and see. There's Emery heading her way through Stowe for the final time in towards the Vale chicane. And what a fantastic drive for Emery. Of course, didn't quite go to plan in the opening race after that contact with Larry Tenvoda, but she comes back fighting as ever and now heads her way through Club to win race number 2 here at Silverstone. But who gets the final podium spot? Because we're going to go 4 wide here coming up through towards Club, and it's Jimmy and Gabby soaring each other to the line. Who's got 3rd place? I don't even know at this point. What a crazy finish. Gabby somehow is classified in B3, but my word, get the photo finish cameras out.
I want to see 16 angles of that replay. I laughed because I get it. Go for the line, boys. Jimmy nearly got 3 positions and then tried to get the drive off the corner, got into Gabby. They end up wide, but it was 3 wide into Club to start that off. I was about to mention Gabby made a position on the timing screen, and then we saw it all unfolding. Here we go. This is incredible. So DePilio gets a run. Rai's the black and white car in the lead. Gabby's on the inside. This is in, at this point, to Stowe. And Jimmy's just holding on at this point. But look, he tries the undercut. That causes him to check up mid-corner. You can see him on and off the brake pedal trying to trail the car through. And Rai doesn't get a great run. And then it just all kicks off. Gabby's on the inside, nearly slips all the way around, but overdoes the braking. Rye sees the chance for the undercut, and DePilio's left on the outside, gets punted, and this is where Jimmy goes, right, I've got this, but Gabby either doesn't know he's trying to get in there or isn't aware. Rye then spins on his own behind because he's not sure where they're going, and everyone goes everywhere. I don't even know if... Did DePilio cross the line or not? Because he was in the sand trap at the end of that before the finish, so he may end up way down the order as a result.
He was he might have been given a penalty due to the instant limit, because if he was close to the instant limit, he would go over 15 incidents, and then there's not enough time in the race in the final quarter to save a drive-through penalty. So he's been given a post-race penalty here. It was only half a tenth of a second between Gabby and Jimmy for P3 and P4. That is absolutely incredible. Emily Jones, take nothing away from her. She was absolutely incredible all day. But what a finish we saw for those final couple of podium positions. Of course, Jardier in P2. But my word, I need to catch my breath at the moment.
Well, we nearly had all three Minty cars back up on the podium at the end of that, because Jimmy, remember, was fighting for the front at the start of the race. We still get Gabby up there who gets a result, and great for her, because she's been, again, another one chipping away at championship points. But that's ridiculous. I mean, that finish is insane. It would have been expensive if anything else, but that's just ridiculous. I think Gabby, after she cleared the two she was in a battle with, she had no idea there was a fourth one there. I mean, Jimmy's too close for missiles, has to switch to guns. He goes up the inside, and I think she was coming over thinking the line was there, and God knows what the spotter's even saying at that point. Like, you're in the middle, you're on the outside, 3 wide, 4 wide. Does the spotter even say 4 wide in this game? I mean, that's a tricky one. So, yeah, that's a battle and a half.
Yeah, I think if you had a real life spotter there saying, you probably just say, good luck. That's probably that's probably going to be the line, because that's what I would have said for certain. But here's a... Wow, we have to head to our Bose post-race show in a little bit here, Matt. We'll have to get the drivers in just a couple of moments' time, but yeah, what a crazy, crazy end to that race. We are ready and waiting to get perhaps Emily Jones in as the winner here from race number 2. She's just getting prepared there, making sure her microphone's all set up and all ready to have the interview with you, Matt. But there we go. She's in the channel now. And, well, Matt, take it away for the Bose post-race show.
Yeah, I'm still catching my breath after that one. Emery, I'm not even sure if you're aware of what just happened behind you, but you're probably happy you weren't involved in that as you get the win in race number 2.
I'm watching it right now in my replays, and it is a shenanigan. Oh my god! Like, they were 5 wide over the line. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't even know if they technically crossed the line. I think they all went around it in the gravel at that point. You nearly won the first race as well, and Larry was super sportsman to let you back by, but it cost you a bit. You still battled through in race 2. How's the Cayman for racing?
Yeah, it's actually a really good car to race in. Good guy Larry. I don't think he needed to redress that. I think he was okay, but it was really lovely of him to kind of drop back and continue kind of racing me. We had a really good fight, but yeah, this car's really fun. I feel like it's a little bit kind of easier to drive than the Cup car, so the field's a lot closer than it was last time, and yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And Silverstone's obviously a circuit that I think the high speed nature of it makes this car a little bit fun too, with the momentum. But talk about the battle with Larry, because he was sweating. We saw his camera, and I don't think he works. I mean, I've never seen him with his helmet off in a real race car, but I've never seen him working the wheel that hard before.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I saw the first move coming down at turn 4, I think it is. I saw it coming, so I gave him room for that. But then he had another go at turn 6 at the end of like the straight, and it took me by surprise. So it was really fun. We were like giving each other room. Even in the second race, like I think we were 3 wide at a certain point, and it's just, I don't know. You can kind of run 2 or 3 wide at this track. It's really good for racing.
Yeah, super wide, old school circuit. Kind of fun to see. Well, great job. I think, I'm not the best at maths, but I think you're now sitting in the lead of the championship.
Yay. I'm really happy. Now we're going to get Rogers and Dane Warren up to the lead of Pesk as well.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, get the boys up there. And yeah, absolutely. Well, Rogers, I think, actually sits at the top right now. We'll find out a little bit later. Great job today, Emily. That was it was fun to watch. I think the Caymans are a hoot.
Yeah, it was really fun. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Absolutely. Well, Larry, we'll switch to you right away, because you had a great battle with Emery, obviously, in the first race. You might be the most sporting person I've ever seen in sim racing.
That is nice to hear, No, going back to the first race, it was really a nice battle, and I really enjoyed it. I loved it. You see, streamers are really quick, and I was enjoying that. We had like a little netcode, and I was like, I don't want to win like this, so I backed off. And then in the middle of the pack, we tried to get to the front. Of course, the race was quite shortly. And then the second race pushed a little bit too hard in the beginning, had to spin. Was way back off, but could overtake some people. And that was quite fun. There was some nice battles. Also, the finish line with the big one crash. You don't see that often. But
where did you end up? 6th? I think you got, 3 positions from that incident at the finish?
Yeah, 6, but I also got a cut for 1 second, so I had to slow down. But I was like 2 corners to go. I'm not going to do that. So it will be maybe a few plays, 1 or 2 in the front. But I really enjoyed it. I thanks to Porsche letting me in the guest. Normally I'm doing this a lot with the Cup car. Today was something different with the GT4. But it was excited. It was really excited. I'd like to do it again.
How much have you actually driven the Cayman in iRacing?
Not so much. I bought it this week, so that says enough. But still, it's a nice car. Really, in my early years in 2016, the first car, really GT car I drove was the GT4.
Ah, there you go.
So I have good experience with that. But of course, I love the Cup car a little bit more.
Well, listen, it was great to have you. Hopefully we see you again. Great racing. That was a lot of fun to watch. So well done, and great sportsmanship. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed the race. Thank you very much, Joe. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. The Bose post-race show. There you go. You get to hear from the 2 protagonists. Would have liked to hear Jimmy's thoughts on that last lap nonsense or drama, whatever it was. It was exciting. It would have been super, super cool. I'm sure he'll be talking about that nonstop. Maybe we'll see some on Twitter, but that was a ton of fun, Connery.
Again, this series seems to deliver time and time again. The All-Stars giving us a fantastic show here at Silverstone, but we have the professional sim drivers up next. So the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup gets itself started just after these short messages.
CJ, box this lap.
Not right now, boys. Come on, baby. Go for it. Go for it. Go.
Hey, CJ, you wanna come back in? CJ, are you there?
I'm staying out. Get you in, boys.
CJ, come on back in, buddy.
Risk.
What is he doing?
Go. I'm gonna stay in the car. Don't get up. Here I go.
Hey guys. How about some gas for the car? And I'm gonna get some coffee.
everyone, and welcome to round number 4 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. It comes at you this round from the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, the home of British motorsport. This is the countdown brought to you by Tag Heuer. I'm Connery Maddock. I will be your host for this segment. I'm joined by one of the commentators for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, the one, the only, Paul Smith. Paul, we are here at a track that is loved by so many and has so much history.
Absolutely, it's a tremendous venue. It's the home of British motorsport. I mean, I first came here before you were born, Connery, so it really is something that invokes great memories for myself, and one that the drivers do enjoy.
Yep, I enjoy it as well. Great track to drive, great track to watch people race on as well. Lots of overtaking opportunities with the slipstream, but we'll get into that in just a couple of moments' time because we have a recap video of what happened at Imola. Take a look. Well, hello everyone, and welcome here at Imola.
Race number 1, sprint race. Here we go then. The Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup are underway. Drivers blasting away from the grid.
We are seeing a much different order this weekend, and it's great for the front battle.
Rogers, Job, side by side for the lead.
Man, I love that shot through the curves. Everyone bouncing over.
Krunker finds himself all the way to the back of the grid.
But this is the train we want to see. Sebastian Job leads the way. Josh Rogers all over him.
They're trying to break away from Zach Campbell behind them.
Oh! And that is a big spin, and around goes Thomas Tetzela.
Further back, look at this. You've got Dane Warren, you've got Jamie Fluke, Sindre Setsos, Graham Carroll. This is 12th all together. Look at the leaders here. You can see the concentration, working hard. Front line.
Oh, yep.
There's a cutback for Rogers. He's got a nose there inside. On the inside, clips a curve. There's contact between the two of them. Your two champions in the series getting together, door to door.
These guys have definitely swapped paint a few corners, and it's great to see, but what a battle.
Job now, straight away, on the attack. He wants to get back. A little bit more contact between him and Rogers, and it's Job. He's just got to make it around this curve here, and he will be seeing the checkered flag in this first race. Getting set, waiting, and away we go for this feature race. Contact! That's Seb Job! He's into the gravel trap, dropped all the way down to the back of the field. He is out! Oh, there's contact for Rico and another car. Big drama towards the rear of the field.
This is just getting hairy now.
Berka runs wide. That's a mistake down at Rivazza. Got his braking wrong. Loses out 2 places. Zach Campbell right behind him.
Rogers, man, he is on a move, no question about it.
Sanchez just taken the normal racing line, and Rogers, it's almost like a doorman on the front of a hotel. After you, sir. They're still side by side, but Rogers guiding him off the track. There's 2 more corners here, 1 more corner to go, and it's going to be out of that final corner. The Australian Joshua Rogers finally gets a feature race win here.
An amazing battle with Alejandro Sanchez.
And if you thought that was fast and frenetic, Silverstone will give us even more of that.
Well, we had some absolutely enthralling action at Imola for the last round of the championship, but, well, the previous round of the championship, excuse me. Sebastian Job, though, having a very poor main race means that he loses a ton of points to Joshua Rogers in the championship. But before we get to that, we actually had a sit down with one of the drivers that's second place in the championship right now. That is Mitchell de Jong, and he, of course, races here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. He's racing the Rallycross World Championship on iRacing, and he also has now qualified for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series. Let's take a look.
This competitive of a field, of course, every year it just gets more and more competitive. Really, you have new faces constantly coming in every single year, filling up the next 20 coming in, and really you have to stay on your game every single year. I would say 2020 I had a very difficult year that I had to fight back from, and I think it's helped me start off on the right foot for 21. So this is something you can never get comfortable at doing. You just have to constantly put in the work and just be fully dedicated to it. The 3 that I'm competing in, Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, competing in that for a few years now. Before that, we were running in the F1 series, which, developed into this one. In addition to that, eNASCAR Coca-Cola series, as well as the iRacing World Championship. So, really, we have a packed schedule among those special events and whatnot. For me, I just love all types of racing. So it's just an honor to be able to take part in all of these and be able to make it to this level in each of those things. They're all very different styles of racing, but that's kind of why I enjoy it. So the time that it takes to run at the top level of all these different things is immense, and you really need to be dedicated, self-disciplined, and be ready to work hard, because it's very cutthroat. There's always someone ready to take your spot, so you need to be on your game to defend your position in the series. As the schedules start to overlap here pretty soon, it's going to be very difficult. I've kind of been thinking about it for a while now, of how I need to separate my schedules, my days, into practicing for each things. This last year I had to fully qualify into the whole eNASCAR Coca-Cola series. That was a very long process through Road to Pro and the Pro series, and it definitely shows that it does take away performance from other things. So you just need to be very on top of being very efficient with practice, planning your days accordingly, because really you need as much time in each as you can. So it's going to be much of the same case with this one. Just trying to put it all together, plan my days wisely, and hopefully it's enough to run at the top level of both.
Well, what a lovely chat there with Mitchell de Jong. Of course, he has so many commitments here in sim racing. He has to spread himself a little thin, but we'll have to see if that affects his performance here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Those are the standings up on screen for you now, and this is the I'm not sure if those names are entirely correct. I don't think Brian Lockwood is actually leading the point standings at the moment, but those are the plus and minuses here. We will just have to skip over that for now. But Paul, just talking about Mitchell, what a driver to be able to be so adaptive in terms of the types of racing that he gets himself involved in here on iRacing.
Yeah, he's a true all-rounder, and that's exactly what he brings to the table. And he has to be an all-rounder to be able to compete in all these world championships. So really good driver there, and be interested to see if he can compete here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have a look at the track map now. Of course, you all know and perhaps love it. Silverstone circuit, the most historic track here in the United Kingdom. Of course, 3.67 miles in length, 18 turns. Of course, is the most recent layout of Silverstone with that inner loop. On iRacing, you can indeed race the historic layout if you wanted to skip that infield loop, but we'll be using it here today. Opened in 1948. It was there at the very start of Grand Prix racing, for example. Fantastic track indeed. That tight and twisty first sector that was part of that new layout will promote a little bit of overtaking here today. But the name of the game here, though, is going to be the slipstream, both down the Wellington Straight and the Hangar Straight, down in towards Brooklands and down in towards Stowe, respectively, for those two straights. So a lot of action potential here at this circuit, Paul.
Absolutely, and you mentioned it there. It's such a fast-flowing circuit, and slipstream is going to be such a massive key issue around here. Being able to work the traffic and work the slipstream for these drivers here today will mean could be the difference between a race win or finishing mid-pack. So definitely these drivers are going to have quite the battle on their hands around this circuit, and it's a circuit that is challenging to get absolutely right, but it's so rewarding if you do get it right, and it's certainly one that a lot of these drivers do enjoy.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I get the feeling that we'll see a lot of slipstream shenanigans going on here. Perhaps not as much as we would see at Le Mans, for example, which is a track a little bit later on in the season. But we had a similar sort of situation here at Interlagos, where drivers are able to keep themselves close together. They're able to get that draft out of the final couple of corners to make passes happen down in towards the center S. So this was round number 1 of the championship that you're seeing right now. We'll get to see a similar case here at Silverstone. So you might even see a couple of names start to climb through the field. If they're in the right place at the right time and able to get those slingshot passes done, they can make some very, very good progress. Draft, the great equalizer as always.
Yeah, if you're used to seeing some of the action that you see in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, and you'll see what effect draft has, and you can see how it drags other cars into a battle. So you might have a 2-car battle, all of a sudden you've got 5-6 cars just waiting there to pounce. So definitely you're going to see some tremendous action out there, and slipstream is going to be key around this track. If you're the leader, you want to try and break that draft, but if you're there in that catching group, you need to keep there and keep pushing on to keep that draft.
Yeah, it's just about being in the right place at the right time and making those sorts of calculated moves. Where can I get a clear pass here? You know, I can't afford to get held up by going side by side through multiple corners. That'll just make me lose the draft of the cars ahead. I'm having to fight with all these guys behind as well. It's not the ideal situation. So they need the passes to be done here need to be very, very quick and very, very clean. But let's have a little look at the highlights from the All-Star event that we had just a couple of moments ago. Fantastic action here in the Cayman GT4 cars, the 718s here. It's just brilliant stuff. And I got to say, some of these All-Stars are kind of showing how the professional sim racing drivers how to put on some good racecraft.
Yeah, I was sat back watching this, listening to you and Matt on commentary, and it was tremendous action. Caused at that instant right there, caused quite the kerfuffle on YouTube. I can tell you, with people's giving their opinions about that. But yeah, tremendous action from the All-Stars. They just keep on getting better and better to these All-Star races. So yeah, a little bit of paint swapping, but yeah, at the end of the day, it was a tremendous performance by Emery to get that race win in the feature race. But what a finish here.
4 wide, then 2x2, bumping and banging on each other, coming across the start-finish line, and my word, what a shot. Shout out to the production crew there for putting together these highlight videos and some of the fancy new cameras that we get to play around with as well. It's brilliant to see and adds another element to the racing that we see here today. But yeah, we're sort of kind of primed and ready to get qualifying started in just a couple of moments here. But, you know, going back to the order as it stands, you got Joshua Rogers on 198 points at the very front of the field. We've got Mitchell de Jong on 161 and Dane Warren in third place on 145. So things starting to spread out a little bit at the very front of the field, but we've got a positive start to the season for Maxim and Bernica in P4 at the moment. Kevin Nash Jr. also has had a decent start as well, Catalonia notwithstanding. So there are still very much big players in this championship, and it's way too early to tell who's going to come out on top.
It certainly is, and we just, as always, we've seen in the first 2 seasons that the championship goes to the final round, and yeah, hopefully it'll end up like that again this year.
So that is the end of the countdown brought to you by Tag Heuer. We'll have qualifying here just after these short messages. You'll join Paul and Matt for that. "40 of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge?" Interlagos, Barcelona, Imola, Silverstone, Road Atlanta, Montreal, Spa, Nürburgring, Le Mans, Monza. This is Racing for Immortality. This is Esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
40 of the best sim races. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? This is Racing for Immortality. This is Esports personified. This is the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup.
After the twists and turns of Imola, we're now heading to the UK in the home of British motorsport for round number 4 of the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing. And we're here at Silverstone, and what a tremendous venue we've got here. Paul Smith alongside me is Matt Trivett, as always, here on the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup. But Matt, I mean, Silverstone, we saw in that all-star race how exciting and close the action could be. What happens when you get 40 pro racers on there?
It's not quite as fun in games and more serious and competitive, I think. This is going to be a pretty nuts battle. A little more drafting going on in the Cup cars. Heck of a lot more speed. Something like, I think, 15 seconds a lap faster around this circuit than the Cayman, which is a very fast car in its own right. And we've got 6 drivers in this field, if I'm not mistaken, that also take part in the Super Cup, the British version of this on iRacing. Yep. They've got their own championship going on this year with Porsche as well. So they've already had a race at Silverstone. So there's a chance that we'll see some of those guys maybe already having some setup advantage. They wouldn't have to work quite as much to get the car dialed in this week. Lots to look forward to. Certainly a track that we've been to many times in this championship before, and a championship battle that is heating up. Josh Rogers back in the lead, teammate Mitchell de Jong just behind, as well as Dane Warren, who continues to climb back up after a bit of a turbulent second round, but then all the way through, it's pretty close. Alejandro Sanchez as well doing well to battle back. Sebastian Job, though, Paul, defending champion, he's kind of had a mare to start the season. First feature race at Interlagos had a disconnect issue due to technical problems, and then last time out he won the sprint, but was unfortunately had a first lap incident at Imola in the feature race, so he's got some work to do.
And you see that number to the right as well, the plus minus. That's how far away they are from the relegation spot, because of course only the top 20 automatically qualify for next season's championship. So that's something that we'll start paying attention to as we go through the championship towards the end of the season. But yeah, Sebastian Job, he has got a task and a half on to try and retain his championship here. But of course, I said we are at Silverstone. It is the home of British motorsport, and it is a tremendous venue. Had an update to it in the mid-2010s, and brought in that infield section. A lot of people are not the biggest fan of it, but as we'll see on the track map here, that infield section though does give you some extra overtaking opportunities here, Matt.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same flow to me that the old sort of Brooklyn section had when you kind of twisted and turned. You carried such great speed through the S's up the hill, which was a small hill, but a hill nonetheless. Now it's actually got some slower speed corners, but it does open up that Wellington straight, and it gives you a bit of a setup to really need the drive out of the loop. And if you get that wrong, which is an attacking position as well, and you can be pushed off your line, it does create some opportunities to now get into the new Brooklyn's corner and into left field. So you're right, it does open that up a little bit. I want to note as well, yes, it's the flattest circuit we've been to, but it does have some incredibly high-speed corners. Meggett's, Beckett's, Chapel are so good. And there's 85 points if you had a perfect weekend on offer. Job is 89 back, so he's a full weekend behind. And that also, 85 points doesn't mean you're going to close that 89-point gap, because you need Rogers to have a bad weekend as well. But it's possible. Connery, as you've certainly been watching this championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, these guys, getting the first qualifying laps underway right now. It's, qualifying is going to be relatively important here, but maybe not as important as it would be at some other circuits where it's a little bit trickier to overtake. So I don't think the qualifying is going to be the be-all and end-all for this particular event. It's, like I said in the pre-show, it's going to be more this sort of strategic, picking the places where to pass and picking the right time as well is the important thing. that's going to win someone one of these races. So it's going to be interesting to see the sorts of strategic moves. Of course, it's the only strategy that we get here in the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup due to us not having any pit stops. But it's going to be a very intriguing race for that reason.
Certainly, and don't forget that there are points available to the top 5 in qualifying here as well. So championship points available here, and that could be really important for them here. Connor, will just give you some final words here, because they can make the difference between winning the championship and losing the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes down to it, if there's a couple of points, in the balance coming towards the final round of the season at Monza, then you're going to be hoping and praying you would have gotten a couple more points in qualifying earlier on in the season, for example. So it might not matter so much now in terms of the points, but again, it's all about hindsight is 2020. Once you get to the final couple of rounds of the season, it's just like, I wish I did a little bit better in this session, or I wish I did a little bit better in that session, just to gain those extra points and take the pressure off coming into the final round.
Well, thank you very much, Connery. We'll be hearing from you throughout this broadcast, but we have got action out there on track, drivers out on their qualifying laps, and here's Ricardo Rico, who was involved in one of those incidents that we saw in that recap of Imola down into the final turns, and he's one of the rookies here, Matt. He'll be looking to try and get his season started, because it's been a bit spluttering stop-start for him.
Yeah, it has. Great looking car. I love asymmetric liveries on the front of a car. Not mine is. You'd think I would have one saying that, but no, it looks fantastic. You're right. A lot of rookies in this field, and 2 of them have been absolute standouts, but the others are still trying to get their footing in this championship, and it's difficult to be deep in the order, as we've seen. It's just such a tough series, and that mid-pack is really battling for position, and he's really battling for a lap time as he comes flying out of Cop's corner, nearly taking all the track into Beckett's, and I mean, you can see how much faster this Cup car is, just visibly, than the Caymans. It's just such a beauty through here, and yeah, I think that definitely he's going to be focusing at this point. As a rookie, you want to make that relegation, the top 20 immediately back in for next season. You don't want to do it the hard way and qualify, because yes, okay, the 40 drivers, it seems like, we've got such a big field. I'm telling you right now, there's another 100 that want in and are very close to getting in. So it's not a comfortable place to be outside of the top 20.
And Rico is one of the 3 drivers yet to score any points this season, along with Josh Thompson and Carlos Fenalosa as well.
Josh Thompson's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah. He has not had a good time out there. As look at Dane Warren, the man in 3rd place in the championship, then down into Stoke, the sweeping right-hander. Let the car run out wide over the curb. We've got the first few qualifying times are coming in as well. So we'll be giving you those in a second. Salva Talon's currently at the top. Make that Joshua Rogers now. And Sebastian Job up even further. So Sebastian Job setting a marker here early on. Dane Warren now to the top of the standings. Sorry, Matt.
Wow. Yeah, this is changing rapidly. I'm super impressed with Job turning things around in qualifying. I was just doing the math in my head. It's 35 points if you, it's 10 points for qualifying on pole, 8 for second, 6 for 2. As you said, the top 5 get points. And then it's 25 for the sprint win. So Sebastian bagged 35 points last time out at Imola. It's 50 points for a feature win. And obviously Josh Rogers got that. Seb was way down in 24th. So Dane Warren, yeah, another guy, I think we highlighted it at Imola, needed to turn things around. Good first race weekend out. Second weekend, not his best. This is a great spot to be in. 10 points for the qualifying for him, because we've seen him race very well in all conditions, whether it's feature, reverse top 8, or if it's in the sprint. So see if that benefits him. Job is still on the front row, though, and De Jong and Ostgaard ahead of Rogers. So 5th place for the man who's been on pole for the majority of all of the past history.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, there we go. The number 99 running around. So that is Mikel Gard in the rather striking livery that they've got there. But Mikel, another one of the rookies in the season who's been...
Is that one of the BS competition liveries?
Yes, it is, yes.
Yeah, they're a great car.
But he's, again, another one that's been just trying to find his feet. Somebody who doesn't need to find his feet this championship is David Williams, the man from the UK, currently living out in Germany. And he has been in this championship since day one. So he's very experienced. He's just finished his lap there. So he is finding himself in 12th place at the moment. Max Benneker out there preparing his car, getting himself ready. So Max, he was asking us to make sure he got his paint on the broadcast. Well, there you go. We got the paint on the broadcast.
Yeah, and I love that he's got the Porsche 24 on the door, unlike the other Redline cars that have the big Redline R. It's on the roof for his car, so obviously a bit more of a partnership going on with Porsche there. And Max, they call him Mr. iRacing for a reason. I mentioned it last time out. I'm sure many people watching know. First driver to reach 10,000 iRating, which is pretty incredible. As Martin Kronka also showing off the livery. This is a car we've seen near the front, but not quite getting the final result. I think he wants to get up on the podium a few more times this year, but he's certainly been in the battle. Same with the VRS cars. All the red cars, we've made this joke a lot, are always near the front, aren't they, Paul?
Yeah, they're always sort of there or thereabouts. As well, that was Ricardo Castroledo just finishing a lap there for him. Not the best qualifying for him so far in 25th. And well, everybody's getting themselves ready, prepared for their final assault on qualifying. Of course, with qualifying here, you only get to the 0 on the clock.
I didn't even realize. I love that they're showing them off, because I didn't even realize there was a little bit of a fox on the front of Matti Soya's car. He's been in a few different liveries this year, but now that he's finally in a stable full time, that'll be his for the rest of the year. I think that's a phenomenal color combination, actually. This isn't one you see. I love something that's a little different. And that's I feel like we're having a little fashion show, like we're showing off the liveries. We've got the Lego livery of Mac Backham. Like, well, I don't know, maybe people need to start saying in chat, like, what's their favorite livery this season. I'm thinking Matti Soya might take it for me.
I think I think we need to get like a Twitter sort of World Cup poll going to see who's got the best livery in the Porsche Heuer Esports Super Cup. Make it a bit of a competition, not just out there on track, but also with the designers as well. Here's Alexander Walters then, was from the Dominican Republic, so he's representing his country there, lone representative from the Dominican Republic. So great to have this international influx throughout this championship. And Alexander working his way through Maggots, Beckett's, through Chapel onto the hangers straight, currently in qualifying 26th, so needs to just move forward just that little bit. I could tell you that first, all the way down to, well, all the way down to nearly the back of the field, 36, covered by 1 second.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, in the British version of this championship, again, the Porsche Esports Super Cup, I think they call it Super Cup, but the Great British Championship they have on iRacing now as well. I think it was Kevin Ellis Jr. that actually was top honors in that race at Silverstone. So to see him well down the order right now, sitting in 16th place, is just remarkable how much skill there is among the world-class drivers in this Tag Heuer series. So yeah, pretty impressive. Sebastian sitting second. He was also, I think, on the front row at Silverstone for their respective race. So as we jump on board with Alejandro Sanchez, who's another driver, again, kind of making up for lost ground when he and Josh Rogers, or rather, I guess Josh Rogers got into him in Interlagos.
Greg Carroll moving up the order into 6th place in qualifying. Alejandro Sanchez trying to get a final qualifying time in. Mitchell de Jong to the top of the standings by 2/1000ths of a second. Well, we do a feature about him before this race, and he goes and provisionally sticks it on pole position. What can Alejandro Sanchez do here? We've got 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining of qualifying. Be careful of that curb on the inside of the exit of Club Corner. Run out across the line, and Sanchez, well, still in 17th, does not improve, so he's not had a good time out there. Rest of your field are going to be setting their final laps. Jeff Giassi there just crossing the line, improving his time but not his position. And here's Jeremy Bootler, one of the 3 drivers who have won a race in this championship around this circuit. So he won the sprint race last year. He's finding himself, or Jeremy's finding himself in 13th at the moment. And there's Max Benneker. He's busy, it looks like he's just talking to his engineer there rather than getting a lap time in.
Yeah, it might even be Dom Johannesberg, as I call him, who's one of the head guys at Redline. Might be giving him a bit of a pep talk But yeah, they've got lots of guys in that stable at Redline with a lot of experience. Atsi Kirchhoff, Oli Pakala, who's they've been around forever. I think Atsi even runs a sim facility in the Netherlands. It's not far from Spa, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I know Spa's in Belgium.
That's Belgium.
But, yeah, I know Spa's Belgium, but maybe it isn't. I'm trying to think of exactly where it is. I thought it was Netherlands. Maybe he's in Belgium as well. Anyway, point is he's trained a lot of drivers over the years, and he's engineered a lot of their 24-hour races for those guys as well. So super cool to see that they've got so much support on that team.
So it's De Jong and Warren sharing the front row with Job and Erstgaard second row. Charlie Collins and Josh Rogers third row of the grid. Rogers missing out on points from qualifying. Then Carroll and Talons with Backham and Holtzman on row 5. Row 6 for Benneker with Kevin Ellis Jr. Bootloop and Fluke, Hart and Williams, Sanchez and Campbell. And row number 10, Giassi and Tiba. Casabon, Setsos, Guyvan and Kaidasoya. We'll see the rest of your grid run through here. Tetela is one of those down on row number 13. Jack Sedgwick on row 15 will be disappointed with his qualifying there. Further down, Krunkas, row 16 for Martin. Josh Thompson trying desperately to get some points in his championship. He's down on row 17. And the final couple of rows there, right at the back, Brian Lockwood and Carlos Fenalosa. So they'll be looking for a few incidents happening in front of them to try and work their way forward in this race. But very quickly then, Matt, who's your call for this sprint race?
Oh, it's tough to call, isn't it? Mitchell de Jong looked excellent in qualifying. I think Dane Warren might have something up his sleeve, but never discount a guy like Sebastian Joe with a start like that. And Graham Carroll, best qualifying of the season. Someone who stood out to me in practice, though, I'm going to give 3 a curveball. Maybe not on for a podium. Maybe sneaks into the top 8. In practice, Patrick Holzman was setting the pace. He didn't quite get it together in qualifying. So see maybe if he has something to say once we get on track with the action.
Well, here we go then. The drivers all set for the sprint race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Green flag in the air. Away we go then. In towards turn number 1. 7 laps of racing. And it's De Jong away at the front ahead of Warren. Rest of your field are going to come flying through Farm Curve into Village. And there's Job looking to make some moves. Side-by-side contact between him and Warren. And well, Erstgaard is trying to push his way through. There's a big accident further back. We were afraid something like that could happen. We're staying green flag racing. Job out onto the grass. There's a car on its side. It's Rico. Rico's on his side. Rest of the field running through to Brooklands for the first time. And it is the 77 of Bootloop and Campbell battling together along with Max Benneker, Kevin Ellis Jr., Graham Carroll and Josh Rogers side by side out of Luffield.
That is an insane first couple of corners. Unfortunately for Rico, car on his side. I don't know if he's going to be able to continue, and we just talked about him needing a result, so he was in the mid-pack. That's where it always gets rough, the Constantina effect. Sebastian cannot afford contact early in races. It's cost him last time out. And you could see coming out onto Wellington Straight, he took avoiding action, went wide. He knows he has to keep it clean. And now we've got Graham Carroll on the back of the attack right now, all over Joshy Rogers. If, again, not a team championship, but if teams come into play, Graham needs to keep Josh as busy as possible and allow Sebastian to get on the attack for the front.
Well, down the hanger straight for the first time then, and the slipstream is coming into effect. Mitchell de Jong is pulling away at the front, 1.1 seconds. He's still within that slipstream, but only just here. Oh, running wide there was Dane Warren through Stir Corner, so that won't help him. Into the Vale, and then Club. Tommy Erstgaard to the inside of Sebastian Job. He makes a lunge, and Job manages to keep a hold of that, and Erstgaard has ended up costing himself 2 positions here because he's behind with Collins and Rogers.
Graham's going to try and take advantage of that now, too, as they draft down toward Cops. It's a tough place to make it stick. They're both going to hold it on track, very well held. But that gives Max back on the run now as they try to desperately jostle for position. Hard on the brakes as they go into Village, so they were coming through Abbey, not Cops. But that's an insane first lap, and still it's not done settling down. And this is Pesk at its finest. This is what we expect when you've got this much talent and so many cars on track.
Patrick Holtzman, the German, trying to get get involved in this battle as well. In 9th place at the moment behind Matt Backham in that Lego car, but Graham Carroll to the inside of Brooklands of Erstgaard. There's locked tyres in front of them as well. And in fact, that's Josh Rogers making a move in front of them on his compatriot Charlie Collins. So Collins dropping down to 5th place, Rogers up to 4th. It's De Jong, Warren, Job, Rogers, Collins, Carroll, Erstgaard, Backham, Holtzman and Ellis Jr. rounding out the top 10. Max Benneker just outside that top 10 at the moment. And the rest of your field, I mean, we've got one driver out, which is Rico. He has had to retire from this opening race. Disaster for him. Another one that got caught up in all of that, Alejandro Sanchez.
I think that's what kicked it off. I think he got tapped into a spin at Village, and that just made it very awkward. And that kicked the whole incident off. But again, you want to talk about rear gunners. You've got Josh Rogers getting by Charlie Collins. They've been running so well together. And now Graham, he's trying to pursue that again. But it's Sebastian that's right in front. This is really a battle that you got to think. And yeah, here we go. We're going to look. Okay, so it wasn't quite at Village. This is now heading into the loop, but they're getting stacked. And misjudged the braking, and that put him on the back foot. And then, unfortunately, he turns into a car that wouldn't have been there had he got the braking right to begin with. And that's just, we're bumper cars at the fair now.
Yeah, Dan Beats was involved in that. I think Salva Talons was actually in front that had spun as well. So the two Spanish drivers getting spun around there at the loop. So drama for them on lap 1. But here we are then through Farm in a line at the moment. Not really making any moves, but we're on board with Patrick Holtzman here. On the roof, there's a little bit of damage to the front of his car, but it won't be affecting him too much here. So he's fine. He's in that slipstream. He's trying to work his way forward here because, of course, 8th place that Backham is in right now, that is pole position for the feature race. We're only on lap 3 of 7 here, Matt, but already drivers trying to get that prime position for the feature.
Oh, absolutely. You've got a lot more to lose at the front, but I'm not sure it's that conservative. I think it's battle on. I think with Sebastian knowing he needs every single point possible, look for him to be as aggressive as he can for the rest of this championship. And this is the man I highlighted. It didn't necessarily get the best of qualifying start at 10th position. It's still a great starting position, but was looking much better than that in practice, and we can see him already making up one spot in the race. Patrick Holzman now drafting Mac Backham, but this is a train. And again, compared to the All-Star race, if you joined us for that earlier, these Cup cars versus the Caymans are going to punch a much bigger hole, and doing so much quicker is going to leave more room for drafting behind.
Well, speaking of drafting, speaking of slipstream, Dame Warren, he's only just in the slipstream of the American Mitchell de Jong at the front of the field, but he's got Sebastian Job, 2020 champion, right behind him, putting all the pressure on the young Australian. And right behind Job is the 2019 champion of Josh Rogers. Job looking to the outside, trying to commit Warren to a tighter line. He's trying to set him up here for a cutback on the exit of Club Corner. The back end just squirreling around a little bit there for Job, and that's going to allow Rogers now to try and make a run here in towards Abbey once again. But no, they're going to stay line astern as they are at the moment. And I can tell you can see on the timing tower on the left-hand side, Kevin Ellis Jr. has actually made his way past Patrick Holtzman whilst all that was going on.
Yeah, so Halsey going back down a position rather than move forward as we look at Sebastian Job again trying to get up the inside. It's not quite going to pay off this time as Dane Warren still holds on to the position. It's not done there either. And this for Sebastian is difficult because it's Josh Rogers, obviously, that he's thinking of. It's the two defending champions, 2020 and 2019, respectively. And Sebastian knows he's the one that needs to make gains. Josh can just sit there and smile, and he's all over him. It's a fractional gain. Whereas Sebastian, if I'm him, I don't care where Josh is. Forget that he's the one in the mirror. Keep being aggressive, because if you start thinking, well, I can't get aggressive because I give away points to the guy behind me, you're not going to get anywhere with it. So Seb's got to be on the attack here rather than on the defense.
Yeah, he's going defensive. Rogers to the inside of Cops. That's going to be a brave move. You can make it side by side through there. There's plenty of runoff. And yeah, Sebastian just keeps it ahead of Josh. You can see both of them very emotionless, just focused on their task at hand. And Job really working hard to keep himself in third place. And that's just allowing Dane Warren to pull away just a little bit. That takes the pressure off him in second place. Job full on in defensive mode right now. Rogers can't relax though, because De Jong, who's second in the championship, is there in first place as Job locks up the inside tire, and that's allowed Rogers and possibly even Collins to go through. No, Collins drops back.
Yeah, I say Seb can't be focusing on the defensive. Unfortunately, in that situation, he has no choice. And that all started at Beckett's. Josh got the car turned in much tighter. That opens up Chapel for him, and he's able to carry much more speed onto the straight. You add the draft. Seb goes defensive and unfortunately just snagged the right front. And that caused, you can see the smoke pluming off the tire. That caused him to just go a little bit deep. Josh inherits the position, so up to third place now. I say a bad qualifying. What was he, still fifth or sixth? But normally see him in first every single qualifying session, and yet he's still making up for it. So we're used to seeing him battle through as it was last year in this championship. You qualify in the pole, you start 8th in this sprint race. He's used to this situation, and he's showing us exactly why now. And we'll look back at the replay of the battle a bit deeper. This was off the start with a few people in left field, excuse me. Oh, and that's big contact. That's a problem. And a half, I think, was it Ellis Jr. that went into the wall?
Kazabal, and also that would have been, was that Zach Campbell? Who got
You're right, a little bit further down the field. Yep.
Yeah, so Ellis Jr. is up in 9th place at the moment. So yeah, the two of them getting together, and that's the problem. When if you just end up just getting the line wrong, you can end up just turning each other into the wall. It's cost both drivers there. In fact, Kazabal is in the pits and out of the race.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Thibaut Casabon has had a rough start to the season as well. Josh is just amazingly accurate through these sweeping corners. Again, look how much curve he takes at Beckett's. This is going to give him another fantastic run as they cut through Chapel. And bit of a slide. I think that was a slide from Dane Warren. He's going to be on the defense. I think Rogers gets this inevitably now. I don't think there's any way he can defend.
As they go down to start, and Rogers to the inside. Very little, as you say, that Dane can do there, and he's dropped down to 3rd place. We're going to battle for 17th as well. Alexander Walters, and look at the queue of cars behind Alexander there. Down the hangar straight then, you have got Walters, Kaidasoya, Sarika, Pinto, Sedgwick, Gade, Lafuente, Talons, Giassi. They're all in this queue behind Walters, and Walters is doing a fantastic job in 17th right now, and in fact he's slightly pulling away here from Kaidasoya.
He is slightly pulling away indeed. Keep an eye on that number 7 car you mentioned in that battle, Jeff Chiassi. He was actually the one who, by no fault of his own, Alejandro Sanchez, when he kind of got backed up, missed his braking point and then turned in trying to react to it, actually turned in and chopped the nose off him. That put him further down the order than he should have been. So he's got a little more pace than those guys that he's battling further down, as right now we see a great move for position from Thomas Tetila as he goes up one more in the order, and another guy that we've seen make steady progress. Again, sort of the back end of the top 20, but you want to avoid that relegation. He's scoring some points.
Yeah, somebody getting some points as well. Sindra Setsource as well, doing a good job for him. So he's battling there. He wants to get that 14th place, though. That's the thing for Sindra. He wants to get as many points as he possibly can. And of course, for these drivers down here, of course, this sets their grid position for the feature race. So they want to move up as many positions as possible. Those two, they're in a battle of their own there. They're not going to be catching Holtzman, who's actually dropped down to 13th in this race now.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I guess I'm not very good at predictions, Paul, because I thought he had a much better pace than that, and certainly showed some aggression at the start, but now it's coming undone for him. So definitely not what he was hoping for. I think he's still a front-running red line car at this point in time, but we'll see if he can make up a few more positions toward the end. It's not done by any means. We're seeing how aggressive, and we know with 2 laps to go, the battle for 8th is always gloves off at the end, because that's your pole position spot, and it's yielded some results. We saw Sebastian make a pretty bold move in Barcelona for it and actually got the pole, ended up winning the feature race as a result. We saw Sanchez have a great result out in Imola. I believe he was the one that started up front after nearly losing the car on the last lap of the sprint race. But it's the prime seat. That's the hot spot.
Well, we're on board with Charlie Collins. I believe we've got Zach Campbell in the camera spot there, but through the S's, and there you go. There's Charlie. Look at the concentration from the young Brit as he's working his way through the loop now. Through Aintree, carry the speed. De Jong and Rogers have got a little bit closer together, so Rogers is charging down De Jong here. This is the final lap of the sprint race here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. And right now, this front five, they're pretty much staying as they are. There's no moves being made here in this front group. The battle for 8th place, I can tell you as well, has kind of fizzled out a little bit. Backham has got about a 0.5 of a second lead. You can see in that timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen there. So, in fact, it's Østegård, sorry, who's in 8th place, should I say. I'll correct myself there. But Rogers, he's on a charge. He's on the warpath here. He wants to get a win because he would like to get maximum points from this particular race. And he's in that slipstream bubble now. He's getting closer to Mitchell. Mitchell needs to be careful here because the slipstream is strong. We've seen how good Rogers is through the S's there at Beckett, on through Chapel onto the Hangar Straight. So here we go. Last lap in towards Stowe Corner. He's not close enough to make that move. It would be a tremendous lunge if he did make that move there, but he doesn't. So he's going to stay in line there. So that means that the American, Mitchell de Jong, he's just got a couple of corners to go here to take victory here in this sprint race. Through the Vale, into Club, and Mitchell can see the checkered flag, and he's going to be the winner here in the sprint race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, but he's closely followed by Rogers and Warren, and Job in 4th place, Collins 5th, and Carroll rounding out your top 6.
That purple floor, famous inside of the VRS, or excuse me, in the Quanda house, is where 3 of the top 4 drivers are sat right now. And Mitchell, what a talent! You guys featured him in the countdown to green, and rightfully so. Multi-series he's running now, and 2 very, very serious series on iRacing, and shows off he knows exactly what he's doing.
So there you go, the American Mitchell de Jong beating out the 2 Australians in Rogers and Warren. The 2 Brits then in Job and Collins, the proud Scotsman Graham Carroll 6th, then the Dutch maestro Matt Backham in 7th ahead of Tommy Østegård from Norway in 8th place. He'll be on pole position for your feature race. Max Benneker from Germany 9th ahead of Kevin Ellis Jr. Another proud Scotsman in 10th place. The rest of your results will be coming through your screen right now, because these drivers will be getting themselves prepared for the feature race in just a few moments' time. But we'll be hopefully getting to speak to your race winner from race 1, Mitchell de Jong, because Matt, pole position, led all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Phenomenal performance. 35 points already in the bag. Again, 85 points is your maximum score for the weekend. So there's 50 left in the feature. He'll start on 8th, but don't rule him out of it. Super smooth, super consistent, very similar driving style to Josh Rogers, actually, as they raced the 24-hour of Daytona together in an LMP2 car. So they would be working incredibly well, and a 1-2 for them again. Josh getting a great haul of points. Will start 7th, but that was an incredible start to the race, I think, Paul, but it really did settle into quite a nice rhythm toward the end.
Yeah, they certainly did. The rest of your results there, Sanchez down in 31st, Zach Campbell 32nd as well. Those are 2 drivers that will be extremely disappointed with those results. Of course, Rico was one of those who did not finish the race as well. So not the best of times out there for them there in that opening race of the evening here. Of course, this is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup by iRacing, and Matt, you've got the race winner.
I do indeed, Mitchell de Jong. You certainly, I think, been busy practicing for the Coke Series as well as the Porsche Esports Tag Heuer Super Cup, and another win for you in the bag. This is going to be quite a showdown for you in the championship.
Yeah, this is crazy. Kind of like right before qualifying started, kind of found a little something in qualifying, and honestly didn't really hook the lap up, but still just kind of got full. This is my first full in the series, I think.
won the sprint race. I think there was some battling behind that gave me a nice buffer through the whole thing. So, man, I'm stoked. It's a lot of points.
Isn't Josh supposed to do a cartwheel behind you right now?
Oh, that's right. Oh, well, we didn't really talk about that. I guess I could always ask him again, but I think we were more talking about the feature, but I think we have a little more work to do to that.
It's fine. Well, okay, I tell you what, if that happens in the future, I definitely want to see it. If not, just make it up to me, post it on Twitter. I'll accept it. What's the plan now? Because obviously he starts 7th. We know there's some fast guys. Josh just came through the order quite well from his start position, but I don't think it's going to be quite as easy with guys like Sebastian looking for points. What's the plan?
For sure. It's a longer race, so you need to kind of take care of your tires a little bit here. Car can get quite dicey long run, so just have to pick your way through wisely. Don't get damaged. Take care of the tires, and ultimately you just have to get lucky through some situations. So we're gonna give it our all. Draft is quite big here, as you guys have seen, so anything's possible.
I know you're really good at dodging things in Beat Saber, so hopefully it's just as easy on the track. I've seen it, Mitch. Pretty impressive as well. Good luck in the future. We're going to get ready for things, Paul, because this is about to get pretty intense. I think Silverstone, nice wide circuit, but 3 wide doesn't always work when everyone's this competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens in just a few moments. Stick around because the feature race of the Porsche Tacora Esports Supercup is coming up next.
CJ, box this lap.
Not right now, boys. Come on, baby. Go for it. Go for it. Go.
Hey, CJ, you wanna come back in? CJ, are you there?
I'm staying out. Maybe later, boys.
CJ, come on back in, buddy.
Let's go.
What is he doing?
Go! I'm gonna stay in the car. Don't get up. Here I go.
Hey guys. How about some gas for the car, and I'm gonna get some coffee.
Welcome back to coverage of round number 4 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup by iRacing, and welcome back to this tremendous circuit at Silverstone. Paul Smith and Matt Trivett bringing you the action here, but also keeping an eye on everything was Connery Maddock. And Connery, you were able to watch from afar there as to what was happening. What did you see out there?
Well, a lot of animosity in and amongst the mid-pack, shall we say. Brian Lockwood, for example, was quite active on the radio, saying that he's always getting shoved off the circuit. People aren't leaving him room. There's an example of one of those little close moments that he had coming onto the exit of the stone. Maybe not so much of a problem in that particular clip, but Lockwood seems to have really gotten on the bad end of a couple of moments here. And there's one of the dooring as well coming down the Hanger Straight, which is not very nice at all from whoever was on the driver's right-hand side there. Again, getting squeezed there coming through Stowe, which is causing a lot of frustration for Lockwood. And we've got another clip coming up involving him as well. There's the dooring coming down the straight there, and another little shove back. So I think there was more in that than at first look there. But a lot of drama happening there down in the mid-pack. And also we have some team radio perhaps from Sebastian Job, because he was involved in the fight for this couple of podium positions. And let's take a listen.
Even defend it. Unbelievable. Joke.
Yeah, so a lot of frustration coming out there from Seb. He had a couple of mistakes during that race as well, just some slight lockups here and there. And, when you have cars so close in front and behind, there's not a lot of room for error. So I think he was more kind of frustrated at himself rather than frustrated at anyone else.
Yeah, that certainly sounded that way. But yeah, Matt, I mean, we saw in that first race how the slipstream was king, and we saw how keen, should I say, that those drivers were trying to keep in that slipstream in that Brian Lockwood incident.
Yeah, poor Brian. I think he was boxed out a little bit there by Johan Art. And we didn't even see the rest of that because it looked like Johan then locked up going into Stowe and probably tapped him on the door again. So I can understand the frustration from Brian Lockwood, but we know, like, this series, you're deep in the order. Everyone's going to try and make up positions where you can, and everyone's so closely matched. Unfortunately, yeah, there's going to be a bit of tripping over each other and perhaps even forcing a few moves that aren't really on. So it's the nature of it. That wasn't the worst we've seen so far this season, so Brian gets away with it. But as you say, I mean, every point counts, certainly toward relegation, certainly towards, climbing up the order and getting yourself a better start position for the feature. And it's an unfortunate situation where he loses a few in that. And that on those incidents.
And Connery, we've got the inverted grid, of course, top 8 reversed. Very briefly, how will that affect things at the front?
Well, it's going to mean that, of course, we get Tommy Ørsgaard up on pole position, and maybe Sebastian will have a little bit of a better time this time around because he doesn't have Dane Warren in front of him. That was kind of slowing him up a little bit, at least in my humble opinion. So he might have a little bit of a better time this time around. Let's just hope, though. I got a report. Mikkel Gard put in the wrong setup for the sprint race, so let's hope he's got that sorted.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Connery. We'll be speaking to you later. But there's the grid then, and you can see that top 8 inverted. So Ørsgaard and Backham on the front row with Carroll and Collins on the second row of Job and Warren. And then the front two from the sprint race of Rogers and De Jong on row number 4. Rest of your grid as they finished in that one. But we're getting close to being all set for the start of the feature race. And you see the rest of the grid as it runs through the order there. So we're getting ready for the start of this one. And drivers keen to see the green flag. There they are for the feature race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Waiting for that green flag. The long hold here. And still waiting. There's the green flag. Away they go for the start of this feature race. 14 laps of Silverstone. And look at that pack of cars going through shot there. So it is Ørsgaard who gets a good start at the front in the lead of this one, ahead of Backham in second place. Graham Carroll third at the moment, with Charlie Collins battling with Sebastian Job. Job trying to get the jump here on Collins as they head into the loop for the first time. Hopefully no big incident like we saw at the start of that sprint race, although there is a car round and there is a multiple accident again at the back of your field, and Max Benneker is one of those drivers that get caught up in all of that.
And did I not see Rico get caught up in it as well? No, I think he might still be going, so he might have got through this time. I was going to say if he gets caught up in the same corner twice, he's going to hate this place for the rest of the time. But right now, the battle at the front continues. It's Østgaard that continues to lead off pole, back him just behind, and then it's the two Red Bulls of Graham Carroll, Sebastian Job, and a slight gap back to Charlie Collins, and then, of course, Joshy Rogers. So this is really line astern for what's becoming the rear gunners and the protagonists. But look at the two wide still further down in the order. Medicata Soya trying to move his way back up there. So too, I believe I saw, was Daniel Lafluente, who didn't have the greatest first race, but he's making a few spots after the contact further back in the field. You just got to avoid that. If you're further back, you had a bad first race, avoid those incidents. You're going to inherit positions at the start, and there's still an opportunity to get in the battle.
I can tell you that Jack Sedgwick and Jeff Giassi are retired. They're back in the pits and they're out of this race, so not the best of starts for those two. Sebastian Job to the inside of the Scotsman, Graham Carroll, down the inside into Sturt. That's third place now for Sebastian. There's no teammates in this championship. There's no team's championship. It's all about the individuals. But Job, decisive, down the inside to make that move.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right. It's not a team's championship, but I'm not going to sit here and feed it that this isn't teammates. Absolutely. You're going to be counting on the fact that Sebastian is going to be working with Graham. Lights flashing. They know they're together in this, and there's a look at both of them. You can't kid me at all. Graham is the busiest man in sim racing. He's focusing on so many different championships, and he's told me straight up he should be in the top 8 in this championship. He's absolutely a top 8 driver, but right now the focus is to get Sebastian back to the front. So watch for Graham to be doing everything in his power to allow Seb to do that. But guess what? Not going to be given to him easy as Charlie Collins gives him the elbows, and Graham runs out wide. I think Sebastian is going to get a run up to second, but it's unfortunately Josh Rogers now ahead of Graham, and you can make damn sure the Scotsman's going to be furious about that.
Yeah, one little mistake into the loop and it's cost him 2 spots there. So Collins and Rogers working their way past, but in front of them, Job made it past Backham into second place. That's crucial for Sebastian to try and get as many points as he can. Tommy Østgaard hasn't broken the slipstream at the front of your field, so he's going to be creating a nice big hole of dirty air for those drivers behind. Look at the queue of cars just all the way down the old start and finish straight. But here's the Vodafone replay then. There's Kaida Sawyer, and behind it was Jack Sedgwick getting poleaxed there. There's Kaida Sawyer getting spun around, and there's very little that he can do there because Giassi gets involved in that one. They go underneath each other, and for people who say that doesn't happen, I've seen clips of Porsche Cup cars landing on top of each other, so it does happen.
I believe that was at Aragon Motor Speedway, if I'm not mistaken.
So there we go. iRacing as realistic as real life there as we go through. So once again, lap 2. I
gotta give a bit of sympathy to Jeff Giassi. He's certainly aggressive. He's new in this championship, newer I should say in this championship. He's definitely not wanting to get involved, and I've heard from a few drivers he's apologetic, but he's aggressive, and this time not his fault. Gets chopped in the first race by Alejandro Sanchez, and that time he's left nowhere to go. So unfortunate weekend for him at Silverstone, but not really his own doing.
Seb Job on a charge. Now is the question here, as he sets the fastest lap of the race so far, is he going to be working his tyres too hard too soon? Or is he making a conscious effort to try get in front of Tommy Østgaard and try and get away? Of course, he was a double race winner here in 2019, don't forget, so he's got experience of being at the front here. Rogers and Collins have just changed positions. Meanwhile, we're on board here with Daniel Lafuente. He's in 21st behind Morena Sarica, so those two battling away at the moment. I can tell you, if you see the timing tower on the left-hand side, it's chopping and changing because Collins and Carroll, they're going side by side into Brooklands. Now Luffield, and Carroll has got the inside for Luffield. You can make that one work, and look who's trying to follow him through. Mitchell de Jong, your race 1 winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Graham knows that you can hold the outside of Luffield as well. Gets a great drive off the corner. That's going to put him just ahead of Charlie Collins. And is he a nose ahead? Yes, he gets back on the racing line for Kops. And now he can go back on the attack toward Rogers. Rogers was always going to get by Collins. We've seen that all season long. Rogers now has to worry about Mac Backham in between he and Sebastian. But Tommy Østgaard has 1/10 to Sebastian, who actually did set the fastest lap in race 1. And we're only starting. This is lap 3 of 14. And look how tight they are through Meggetts, Beckett's, and Chapel. And Mitchell de Jong gives up a little bit in the midsection of that, but will have the best draft down the straight.
Yeah, so we've got Slipstream at the front, we've got Slipstream side by side at the front as well. They send well in towards the Stir corner, and it's going to be Job to the head of your field. So Sebastian Job to the top of the standings. Erstgaard second place because, well, no, they're not, because they're still side by side through club. They're still going to be side by side. Erstgaard will just give a car's width of room. And no contact between the two of them. Erstgaard's into the tyre wall. Job is compromised, and here comes Backham into the lead. And all before you know it, Josh Rogers is right there. He's trying to make moves on Job. Job's got he must have a slow down penalty because he's having to give over time handover fist.
He does, but this is where Graham can come into it and help him hold position as he's going to back up Mitchell de Jong. Sebastian will get back into third. It's such a tough and a fine line. Again, we talked about it, Dale. You've got to be clear going into club or it's never going to work. And Sebastian did a great job holding the outside, but a nose in, and unfortunately Erstgaard comes over, inevitable contact, and it backs them all up. And now Backham is the one in the lead, but Rogers ahead of Job.
He's
still
made a
got
mistake.
more. No, he's gone deep. He's just gone deep under braking. I thought it looked like slow down again. It almost looked so intentional.
No, you could see it on his face. He's not happy as Seb. He's really not happy. This is not like Sebastian. He's normally cool, calm, and collected. But right now he's rattled. He needs to just calm himself down. He needs to get somebody talking to him in his ear and say, right, forget what happened. Just focus on what you're doing. And meanwhile, speaking of focus, Charlie Collins assessing the situation behind Graham Carroll. He's trying to get involved and try and move up the field. But he's got Mitchell de Jong right behind him on his tail.
You want a reference, though, about a championship? Go watch the 1992 British Touring Car Championship right now. Graham Carroll is Steve Soper in this situation, and the man in front, Sebastian Job, is Tim Harvey. This is all teammates at work.
The man's an animal. That's certainly the case here as they head on down the hangar straight as in towards Stir. Look at the move from Kevin Ellis Jr. into Stir. He's showing his nose. He wants to make Mitchell get a bit defensive and try and compromise him. Meanwhile, at the front, Josh Rogers has moved past Matt Backham into the lead of the race.
He absolutely has. So he's gone from 7th to 1st, 5th to 2nd in the sprint race. Josh, again, making the most of these race weekends and getting a massive points total. At least right now, we are far from done. 5 of 14 laps completed. Thibaut Casabon, by the way, way back in 27th place, has just gone purple, so fastest lap of the race for him. But it's Kevin Ellis Jr., Dane Warren rounding out your top 8. Erstgaard, who started on the pole, fell after that contact or incident with Sebastian Job, back to 9th. They're still in the top 10. And then it's a man who's done very well in the Porsche Supercup, the Mobile One real-life Supercup. It's Eichen Guven, who's actually on for his best result of the season in 10th position.
Yeah, he's certainly giving a good showing here to get himself into the top 10. And there is somebody I'm keeping an eye on, but I'm refusing to say their name because I do not want to give them I'm not giving them the commentary curse, so I'm going to save that until the end of the race. But Thomas Tettel at 12th place, Jeremy Boothloop 11th. But look at this now. You can see them. They're both in the same house there, Matt Backham and Josh Rogers, but Rogers just seems to have that extra 10th of a second in his pocket here. I spoke to one of Josh's teammates a couple of years ago, Sage Karam, and he says, yeah, I look at the data, I do the same as what he does, but Josh seems to have that edge that nobody else has.
Sage Karam, there's a name we haven't seen in the sim racing world quite as much lately, but yeah, sometimes it's easy to look at data and figure it out. It's hard to get a feel for it. Josh obviously just has that feel. It comes naturally. He's not forcing it. He's so smooth. As we look a little deeper down in the field, Josh Thompson, as we ride on the Vodafone onboard right now on the roof of the Porsche down the hangar straightaway. A driver for me that I think is certainly capable of more in this championship, but is having a tough go of it at the start.
Yeah, the Manxman is caught in a train of traffic there. In front of him is Diogo Pinto. He's also got Johan Hart, Ricardo Castroleda, Setzors, Holtzman, Tetela, Boothloop, Erstgaard. In fact, Boothloop moving ahead of Erstgaard. That damage must be affecting the Tommy Østgaard, and he is still there side by side with Jeremy Buchler to the inside of Abby. But yeah, you can see the damage on the right hand side of the number 58. It's hampering in here from that instant with Sebastian Job almost 3 wide into Village, and then the loop, the left-hander. And this pack, it is a pack, it's a hungry pack here, and Tetela now moving himself ahead of Tommy Østgaard.
Yeah, decent battle further back in the order. David Williams in this as well. Everyone is really on for position at this point. In fact, you can even see Daniel Lefuente continuing to try and make position up to 20th now. So 25th position is the cutoff for points in the feature race. Sarika's just in front, Walters as well, and actually Thompson continuing to go forward, has Pinto in front of him, and we know Tiago Pinto is super aggressive. Patrick Holzman as well. That's a tough battle pack to be in. I don't know how comfortable I would feel, but maybe if they get into it, you're going to have a hole created for you, as Sindra Setsauce has to be aware of that as well. Østgaard's lost a few more positions, back down to 12th, so perhaps took some damage that is a little bit to his undoing. Certainly the tires would have had a bit of punishing, but he would have brought those back into temperature probably in about 4 or 5 corners.
Yeah, I think it's more maybe a knock to the suspension or the steering or something. It's not quite running straight.
Did he collect the wall? I think he did.
Oh, there's Krunker. Krunker is off in the middle of Beckett. So something's happened to the German, and he's recovering back onto the track. So Martin Krunker just coming on ahead of Brian Lockwood, but I think he may have to serve a potentially slowdown penalty. And there's Max Benneker behind Lockwood. Benneker trying to make a recovery drive after that opening instant in Village and in the loop. And there he goes through the inside, is he? Well, they're still side by side at Lockwood and Benneker as they're heading into Vale and then Club. And in fact, Lockwood trying to hang it out there just behind Krunker there. There you go, you see them side by side. And in fact, is that Lockwood going to be staying ahead of Benneker? Yes, it is. So a little battle for pride, because it's not for points at the moment, down in 33rd and 34th.
Unusually sunny day in Britain. It's 20 degrees air temp, 32 on track, just to note. I'm just speaking the truth. Look, you want to look out my window and see how much snow we have right now? So, okay, all right. You take your rain, I'll have my snow. It's as cold as my heart. I have no sympathy for you. But it is a nice warm track. It's not overly hot, but we did say Michelin, as we know, the story as always is to keep the tires in check. So a little bit longer race, halfway through it now. We're going to start to see some pace maybe come into those who have been able to avoid battles and make some moves, and those at the front who have perhaps been sliding and battling maybe fall out of contention a little bit. So we're really going to get to see the true order in the next few laps.
Well, as we reach the halfway point, let's bring Connery Maddock into this discussion here. Connery, what have you been seeing out there?
A lot of frustration. Seems like it's a similar sort of situation to race number 1. We actually were able to record Sebastian Job and his reaction to the instant that's basically changed the complexion of this race. And that was a couple of laps ago at the very front of the field, where he was in a bit of a tangle with Tommy Østgaard, I believe it was, coming through the final corner of Club. He had a pretty vicious reaction. So maybe we can just take a listen to that.
Unbelievable, man.
Well, there we go. And of course, that was just one of the little moments that he had, because he got very frustrated. So there were a few more expletives in that one while I was sitting in his communication channel. So he's very, very frustrated. And a little bit later on, he also says that because of the slide, the tires are dead and this is over. But looking at the times in the tower, doesn't look like.
No, he's certainly pushing on. I just noticed that Tommy Østgaard has dropped down the order. He's plummeted down our timing sheet, so we'll hopefully be able to see what has happened to him. It's going from bad to worse. Thank you very much, Connery, for that little bit of an update there. But we are at the halfway point of the race, and what a race we have lined up for you now, because it is, once again, we're seeing these two, the two champions, Joshua Rogers and Sebastian Job at the front.
This is becoming your Senna and your Prost between these two. It's just time and time again. It's the battle you want, and I don't think there's any love lost between them. I alluded to cars who were unable to keep the sliding down and maybe roasted their tires, and those who were safe. I was kind of referring to Josh being smooth through and Seb having that incident, so he's saying that, but maybe he's lit the wick under him as we look a little further back. This is Holzman, Syndra, they're close to it, and on the outside of that battle, it's going to be Thompson who's trying to make his way through, but look at the gaggle behind them. This is Casa Constantina. I would love and hate to be in that battle all at the same time.
Well, Thompson just went past, I was watching the timing tower, he went past Pinto and Holtzman down that old start and finish straight into Cop's corner to make the move around the outside there. That's extremely difficult. You've got to have the cooperation of other drivers there, and here he goes now. Sindra Setsor's going defensive on Holtzman. Thompson to the outside of Stur. Holtzman's trying to follow him through here, so all of a sudden the Manxman Josh Thompson finds himself in 12th place.
Look at the timing screen. Look at the timing screen.
Yeah.
Holtzman's making a move, but we've got a change at the front. Sebastian is taking no prisoners as he makes his way back through the order, so he is on for the charge. He does not want anything to do with it, and this is more what we need to see from Seb. Yes, he's down the order in the points. Yes, he might be upset with driving standards, but maybe that anger, maybe that frustration, he needs to channel it and go. And what a recovery to get back up into first place, especially going by guys like Matt Backham, guys like Josh Rogers to do it. Not done yet. 6 to go. Does he have enough left in the car to hold on to it? Meanwhile, further back, this battle resumes, and it's too wide all the way through. Sindra Setsas gets tagged into a spin, and I think he got further contact after that as well.
Yeah, it was it was Castroleda, I think he made contact with the second time as well. So that's moved him down. You can see the damage to Castroleda's car, the 33. Here comes Sarika to the inside. There's Walters there, Alexander Walters trying to hold on to position for the time being. Johan Hart, who's not been feeling too great this last week or so, he's working his way through the field as well. But look there, front of the field, well, he said it was done. I don't think it is done quite yet because he's at the peak of this race, but is that just a case of Josh Rogers maybe just deciding, right, I've had enough of making the hole in the air, let's just sit behind, look after my tyres a little bit?
Well, I didn't see the move, but we know Josh is a smart enough driver that maybe if Seb is frustrated and just wants to get on with it, Josh might not have defended as hard as he dare, but you're absolutely right because he's right back in the draft and he's right back on the attack. So the pressure's on Sebastian to hold this position as Graham Carroll's still coming back into this as well. He's now closing it on Matt Backham behind. This is really becoming the race of the season so far, as we're seeing all the right characters and all the right positions and some emotion involved in it too. As we complete one more lap, it'll be 5 to go across the line.
As round club corner they go once again. So it is Job, Rogers, Backham, Carroll, as quick as that, but not that far behind them is Charlie Collins with Mitchell de Jong, your sprint race winner, in 6th place. Dane Warren 7th ahead of Kevin Ellis Jr. in 8th. Then Jeremy Boosloop and Ayashan Guvan rounding out your top 10. Thomas Tesla and Josh Thompson ahead of Holtzman, Pinto, Walters, Castroledo, Hart and Sarika, with Gard and Fluke rounding out your top 20 of this field. A 40-car grid. It was a full grid at the start of the race. It's not quite full anymore because Setsos Sanchez has just parked the car as well as Cardasoya, Campbell, Tiba, and also Giassi, and I believe also Cedric. Oh no, Cedric is running out there, but he's multiple laps down. So a number of cars getting involved in instants, and this is giving drivers an opportunity who maybe haven't had the opportunity the first 3 rounds of the championship to move forward and get some valuable points.
Yeah, and it's a disaster for guys like Alejandro Sanchez, who is trying to recover after round 1. Guys like Zach Campbell, who's our leading rookie by a fraction of points. Well, was our leading rookie over Charlie Collins, who will now take over that position and that honor. So yeah, not the weekend to remember for those two in particular, as well as a few others, but this battle is just heating up. Josh, his car just, and you can see it, I mean, that change of direction in the Red Bull, you can see Sebastian's car, that rear end flicked into that turn. It's definitely going to put more emphasis on tire, and that's going to be a lot more punishing for him as we get deeper in this race. Where I was about to say, you can see Josh's car driving a lot more over the front axle, getting into the corners on entry, looking a lot more accurate at high speed. So could be a difference in setup. roll bar definitely comes into that. Ride height is something in the curves, certainly, but I think this is more of a roll bar and caster setting for Josh that might favor him late in this race over Sebastian.
Well, Rogers, you notice the last 2 laps now, down the hangar straight has just been lifting up the throttle. He's happy sat there for the time being. He's been at the front for long enough in this race. He wants to just sit back, bring his tyres back into a good range, and then push on for the last, say, 2 or 3 laps here, Matt. So it's tactics. We said that there isn't much strategy in this championship, but there is a lot of strategy going on with what they can do.
Can Mitchell D? Oh, hang on, further back, we've got an incident. Oh, he's going to actually park it. Johan Arth was going around, and we caught the tail end of it, but obviously he's going to retire as a result of that incident, so maybe we'll get another look at it. He was certainly involved in the wars the whole way through, so maybe he just took too much damage at that point, or was that actually X'd out? Because I think he's been in contact 2 or 3 times.
Well, there's Benneker. He finds himself, I believe, in 25th because he's just ahead of the battle for 26th. Tommy Erskard has fallen out of the points now in this race after starting up at the front of your field, down to 26th, and he is embroiled in a, losing battle with Toyman and Lockwood Kazabor behind. We've got side-by-side action. Rico side-by-side then with Christopher Dan Beats, and behind them is Carlos Penalosa trying to make some moves.
This is a great drive from Rico because he started, remember, he was the first retirement in our sprint race. He started dead last in this race. He's up to 20th. He's made his way through half of the field, but not to be outdone. Back at him comes, I believe that's Thibaut Casabon, is it not? No, excuse me, Christopher Dan Beats.
Dan Beats.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's got a run here, and this is causing quite a stack behind that might allow a few more people to get involved in that argument. Meanwhile, look at this draft at the front. Rogers is all over Sebastian.
Yeah, a couple of drivers who have yet to score in this championship, Rico and Penalosa, right next to each other, so they're in the points there. So they'll be hoping to get a good finish in this one and maybe not get involved with each other. Round club and once again, and it is Job just staying ahead. Rogers just playing that waiting game. He's being patient here. They're actually slightly just pulling ahead of Matt Backham, only by a few hundredths of a second each lap, but they are just slowly just eking a little bit of a gap ahead of Backham and Graham Carroll, who's in 4th place. Still in 4th place is Graham, the Scotsman, doing a good job, but Collins and De Jong not that far away off this lead battle either.
If I'm Josh Rogers right now, I'm going to be feeling pretty comfortable. 3 to go. Okay, next lap by, you start to got to look at making a move, but the back end of Sebastian's car is absolutely starting to get loaded and swinging a little bit in these corners, so Sebastian is battling the back 2 tires.
Connery, we're getting more instance there with Brian Lockwood. Connery, you've been seeing things.
Yeah, this kind of sums up what Lockwood has been going through over the course of this race and, of course, for race number 1. Is everything happening in front of him, and he's having to try and avoid everything. So thank you very much, drivers, for bringing me a good example of that with the onboard, with the Vodafone onboard of Brian Lockwood. But we can listen to some team radio as well.
The mid-pack just feels like you either have to be aggressive enough to risk punting people, or you're risking getting punted a lot worse.
So it's either punt or be punted, apparently, from Brian Lockwood as he looks to the inside coming through cops. He's really like a hot knife through butter.
Well, I can tell you there was an instant in front. Yeah, that was Benneker was one of those drivers involved in that instant in front of him on the exit of Luffield.
And I couldn't tell if that was Ustgaard or Williams that was involved, but both of them went well off and wide. So talking about being punted in the midfield, it's going to be 2 to go this time by the line, and Josh starting to show the nose a little bit more on Sebastian Job as they get closer and closer to this finish. And I can tell you for sure we're going to see some side-by-side action. Mac Backham, Graham Carroll, they're all going to be involved in this. This is going to be an absolute battle and an absolute finish. So don't move, because this is about to be the race of the season.
This has been a race of attrition as well. Max Benneker, the latest driver to head on to pit road after that incident. But now let's focus then on this lead battle. 2 champions dueling once again here in this championship. It always seems to be these two who find each other out there on track. And, well, look behind them. Matt Backham is not letting them rest either. They need to be on their A game here. Down the Wellington Straight, named after the World War II bombers that used to fly from this very venue. And down into Brooklands, then, of course, that corner named after the first ever anywhere in the world permanent racetrack in the world. So Brooklands, of course, the corner there, but through Lovefield, through Woodcote, Rogers will just be caring about not getting too close. You can have a thing where you get too close through Beckett and it just costs you that little bit of a run out of Chapel.
I mean, I won't lie to you, Paul. I thought Josh was going to become a Wellington bomber and go for the dive into Brooklands at that point, because he's definitely all over Sebastian at this point, and we're going to follow this right through to the end. Take a look at the Tag Heuer timing tower right now. 4 cars within a second. Collins not far behind that with our race 1 winner, Mitchell de Jong, all over him. And Sebastian's got to be as cool as a cucumber, to give you a nice cliche, because Josh, we know, is, and Sebastian has all of his mirrors full. All 3 of those mirrors with 1 Porsche covering all and every angle behind him under each braking point.
So interesting that Rogers doesn't make the move yet. He's deciding to hold back for the time being. He's pushing Job. He wants to try and force a mistake out of Job. We've seen a mistake already from Job. Well, actually more than one today. He's been rattled a little bit, and they'll know that will Josh Rogers, and he'll be tapping on that and trying to really frustrate him and force a mistake. But Job, he seems to have got his breathing back in order. He's calmed himself down and he's getting himself through Abbey into Farm once again. And Rogers keeping that pressure on here on the final lap of this race. Matt, this is just what we expected to see all season.
Absolutely. Josh not quite close enough to try and disrupt Sebastian as they head out of the loop, but this is the run. This is one of the 2 straightaways where he can get the draft as they head down Wellington. Oh. Sebastian's wide on the exit, but he keeps the drive. He's got to go defensive early.
Yeah, getting wheels on the grass there. That will have compromised his run onto the Wellington Straight. Rogers not close enough then to make a move, but the mistakes are coming from Sebastian Job. He's under intense pressure from behind. As you mentioned, Matt, 3 drivers. Well, it's now a queue of 6 cars in total here for the lead as they come through Woodcote across what used to be the start and finish line. Rogers looking to the inside of Cops. We've seen moves made around here. They're giving each other space, but Job can get the run out of Cops here. Rogers now putting the pressure on through Maggots into Beckett's then. Right. Get the car slowed down left. Then the final right of Beckett's here. Such a technical part of the track. Get the power down. Job, the back end just swinging out there through Chapel. This is where Rogers has got to make the move, and he's going to look to the inside. Job has left the gap there. Is that a mistake? We'll have to wait and see. Job running out wide, trying to get the run. The swing through Stir corner. Rogers and Job side by side, and it's Job ahead as they head into Vale. And look behind, because Carroll's getting involved in this one as well. Into Club Corner, it's going to be Sebastian Job for victory in the feature race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Rogers in second ahead of Backham, Carroll, Collins, and De Jong. As quick as that, big drama in the background of the shot as well. I think Ellis Jr. was involved in that one. Ayachan Guvan in 8th place as well, but wow. What a final lap from Sebastian Job.
Yeah, and absolutely drive alongside Graham. He was a huge part of that and giving Sebastian track space and holding up after that contact with Østgaard. So Sebastian, what a recovery. And you said it. I thought maybe he made the mistake by giving him the inside gap, but he was very smart about it. He pinches him to the inside until the braking point. Sebastian goes back to the hard right, opens the corner up, and keeps just enough speed around the outside. Very smart racecraft.
It is your 2020 Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup champion Sebastian Job with victory here in the feature race ahead of the 2019 champion Joshua Rogers in second, Matt Backham rounding out that podium, Graham Carroll fourth ahead of Collins, and then you're seeing the rest of the field. Josh Thompson with his first points of the championship, so too Ricardo Rico as well in 18th, so they're off the mark for those two. Some really good points for them. And then the rest of your field running through. I mean, Brian Lockwood does get himself some points in the end. Tommy Erstgaard from pole position down to 26th in the end, so out of the points. Dane Warren 28th in the end. No, that's incorrect there. That's our timing screen just getting a little bit mixed up there. But one driver who did have a nightmare out there, Max Benecke, well, Johan Haas, Alejandro Sanchez, who was hoping for a big race, Zach Campbell, all sorts of people getting involved in that. But that is your results. And right now, we are going to head on into the Buzz post-race show here. And, well, we'll get the thoughts of the drivers who've competed in that one. Matt, take it away.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say after that. That was incredible all the way through. No doubt about it. I think the race of the season, Sebastian, man, yeah, wipe the sweat off the hands, wipe the sweat off the brow, probably throw that shirt in the laundry. That's probably the hardest I think you've ever had to work for a win.
I don't know.
Oh, don't downplay that.
No, honestly, I didn't have that much fun that race. It was because Josh was just chilling behind. I knew exactly what he was doing. I was kind of expecting it. He thought it would be better to be in second on the last lap. But I had a specific plan to counter that, which kind of worked and kind of didn't, because I messed up and had a huge lockup. I think he just locked up as well, so I got away with it. But yeah, just a very frustrating two races when you're surrounded by one other team. So I don't know how I've ended up with a win there.
I mean, Graham did a great job of giving you some track space after the contact with Østgaard, because he backed everyone up and you got on with it. But we heard some radio, or at least a report of you saying the tires were done. Did you actually not think you had any chance in that?
No, I thought it was over. The second I had that incident, we'll say, on the start-finish line with Tommy,
we heard that team radio too, don't worry.
Oh, good. But yeah, no, I was... I just felt the tires were gone completely, and my main goal was getting. I know how strong the slipstream is here, so I knew it wouldn't be like difficult as such to overtake Josh as long as he didn't defend, which he didn't. And I just wanted to do that just so I could be in the front and take care of my tires, kind of control the pace, and that worked. But I still wasn't really happy with the tires at the end, so I knew it had to be a good last lap, and luckily it was. I had a plan and stuck to it, and it ended up working out. So yeah.
Well, it was exciting to watch. No doubt about it. I think the race of the season, you and Josh at the front, is something I don't think anyone will ever get sick of watching. So congratulations on the feature win. Definitely, I think, hard to say makes up for, because that's not how math works in points, but certainly makes up for the fact that one was kind of taken last week at Imola.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's something. I think I'm still quite a ways behind, but more of this and maybe the gap gets a bit smaller.
Well, good luck on that charge.
Thank you.
As we got treated to an absolute race there. Paul, no doubt about it. I love that he was like, I didn't have any fun. Well, I had fun watching. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that was tremendous stuff. I mean, I'm nearly hoarse with that call at the end. That was tremendous stuff. But we've also got the man who finished second place in that race then.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems weird to be so excited about a second, Josh, but again, watching that battle, that was phenomenal. You definitely played the strategy. You wanted to be saving tires behind, but I think he was determined after some of the early incidents.
Yeah, for sure. That was an awesome battle in the end. Full congrats to Sebi on the win there. That was awesome. But yeah, you're right. I was trying to play the strategy card there. Basically, I knew kind of once I got in front of Mac, and I was kind of analyzing the gaps between Sebi and Mac over the a few laps, and he was gradually closing in. So basically, I knew that ultimately it was going to be a fight with him for the win. So from there, I kind of started to try and save the tire. That's why I let him through as well. I was kind of constantly trying to think throughout the race, whether to do a second last lap, where to go. I mean, ultimately, I wanted to go around the outside of turn 7 and then have the inside for 8, but I stuffed up my run out of 4, so it didn't necessarily work out as planned. But yeah, no, in the end, it was awesome fun. Also, a great result for everyone in the team too. I mean, I made a Miller quali, but the other guys pulled through and had an awesome result there. So yeah, happy with this one.
Didn't get to see a cartwheel behind Mitch. Does he have to do one behind you now that we're interviewing you? How's this going to work?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure. I don't think Mitchell's going to be doing a cartwheel behind me at the moment. Unfortunately, maybe next round we'll see how things play out.
All right, I'll let you two coordinate it. Obviously, you coordinated a pretty good race weekend this time, but congrats on a second and a good weekend overall, I think, in terms of points.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, ultimately, for me, end goal this round was just scoring consistent points. Obviously, I wanted to go for the win there, but 2 seconds in a race weekend is definitely nothing to be disappointed about. So it's a good haul of points for the championship, and we'll try and keep this going.
Perfect. Well, we'll see if they can. Paul, certainly the Coanda guys are I would say well established in this championship, and they have an absolute pace that a lot of teams I think are chasing at this point. I mean, even Mitchell de Jong looked phenomenal. Mac Backham, another one that was excellent today, gets on the podium in that beautiful Lego car. Didn't lose any pieces of Lego. I think you stayed pretty clean throughout that race, Mac, because there could have been a few more incidents that you could have been involved in, but overall you inherited a pretty good result. As he gets the bow, I love it. Getting the product placement, the bows on the neck there. It's good stuff.
Yeah, got to represent, Yeah, it was definitely, it was kind of a hectic race, especially in the start, the sprint race. I was obviously running like P7, P8, so it's super hectic because you don't want to lose any spots there, and I wasn't really in a position to gain either. So yeah, that's really nerve-wracking. And then, I just kind of inherited P7 there. It was kind of nice, front row start. All went well. I knew I had who I had around me, so like Graham and my teammates, so I knew that was probably going to be perfectly fine. And then, just a pretty clean race from there. Josh and Sebi obviously had to run on me. I know how fast those guys are. So, I didn't really put up a fight with them. And I just tried to hold on to that draft. And I think that was a pretty good strategy because without them, I think I would have been a bit slower. And I may have dropped a few positions. So, really happy with P3 today.
Did you think maybe there was more in it? Like Østgaard, obviously you were the first on the scene when Seb and Østgaard got into it, and you actually inherited the lead briefly there. Was there ever a thought of, all right, let's run from here, or was it more strategy even at that point, thinking about tires?
Well, no, it was definitely always a strategic race. I knew when I had Sebi and Josh behind me, I knew I was no match for those guys realistically. On the last lap, I was talking with Josh a little bit during the race, and he said, I'm going to try something on the last lap, and I'll let you know when I'm going to try and pass, so maybe I can, get a move done or something, but I was perfectly happy with P3. Maybe it looked a little bit in the end like I could have gotten them both, but I also didn't want to risk too much. I knew if I had a shot at all, it was definitely on the last lap if they were going wide together or something, and I could sneak by, but pace on one-on-one, no shot against those two today.
Yeah, well, you were in the right spot if that did happen, certainly. And congrats on the podium. Getting on that step in this series is super hard in its own right. So very well done today from you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm quite happy with the second podium. So I hope there's a few more to come, especially this year. So looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think we are as well. Paul, I'm going to say, for me, it keeps getting better and better. I think now that qualifying, everyone's kind of figured out how to play that game and get that strategy down. We're seeing a correcter order in terms of race pace at the front, and the last 2 rounds have been exceptional. I think today was awesome. I know Silverstone's a little flatter. I like undulating circuits, but it's got so much straight line and width to it that it excites me for where we go next, because it has a bit of both, a nice long straight and some incredibly sweeping hilly corners.
Absolutely our producer's favourite track, which is Road Atlanta, which is going to be a couple of weeks out then. February the 20th. Make sure you set your diaries and set your calendars up for that one to remind yourself to watch this championship around there. If you thought the racing was epic here at Silverstone, Road Atlanta produces some unbelievable action and drama. Turn 5, the bump on the exit Turn 5 is such a tricky corner to get right. So definitely these drivers will be pushed to the limit there. But I want to bring Matt and Connery into the discussion here for our final thoughts of that race, because Silverstone, this championship, we've run it for 3 seasons now here, Matt, and it keeps on delivering in these events here. So this has been a tremendous action here today once again.
I think Silverstone inheriting sort of the old school speed circuits, if you will. I think you said it was 1947 when they started everything going on here, and it inherits a lot of that old school flow that you still see at places like Spa, certainly on the Nordschleife, although it's a lot more narrow, but it has that characteristic while still having some great width and allowing for some really good moves and room for racing. So yeah, it absolutely is a place where you can get side by side and get away with it in a lot of spots.
Connor, you were able to sort of sit back and watch what was going on, and not just at the front, but right through the field. What were your impressions of that racing there? It was tremendous from what we saw.
Yeah, basically close quarters racing up and down the field. You saw a couple of moments in that second race especially where it was just too wide, a couple of rows deep. So a very, very competitive mid-pack, as ever in this series, it should be said. But what about that end of the race? My word, you can see exactly what Josh was doing. Sitting behind, patiently, knowing, when to make his move. It's going to be the last lap, because as soon as I saw him lift like 2 or 3 times coming down the hangar straight on the laps previous, I thought he's preparing for a move on the final lap. He almost got it done, but Seb was able to hold on. Fantastic defense.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, I'm sure we've all enjoyed this. Well, he's not Paul Smith, that's Connor Maddock, and that's Matt Trivett. But I've been Paul Smith. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here in this coverage. It's been absolutely tremendous. And Road Atlanta, let's bring it on. 2 weeks' time. I'm breathless after that one. You see the action here from everybody here on this production. Thank you so much, and it's goodbye.